So, okay, I, Cassandra Phillips, President of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present, that the meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening, everyone. Our mission at Duncanville ISD is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. We will now go into closed session. We are back from closed session. We will continue with our agenda items. We will now move to opening ceremonies. And Trustee Janet Veracruz will lead us in the invocation as we start the opening ceremonies. Trustee Veracruz?
Thank you, Madam President. If you would please join me in bowing your head. Heavenly Father, we join our hearts collectively this evening in making you the focal point in which all our decisions will be made. Heavenly Father, we are assured and know that in your mighty name, all the things work together for a plan in which you design for our students, leaders, staff, and teachers to succeed. Father, we give you all the glory and praise for the protection of our Duncanville students and their families' lives that suffered a loss of their home in last week's fire. May we pray continually and seek your presence in all we do. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trustee Veracruz. Trustee Jacqueline Colton will lead us in the pledges. Trustee Colton?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in the pledge to Texas. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Trustee Colton. We will move on to the superintendent's report. I will now turn it over to Dr. Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. And again, welcome board members and those that are watching or will be watching via the video. I have the opportunity to present just a couple of items for you on this evening during the superintendent's report. First item I have is just an update on some of the facility challenges that we have in the district. So there was a fun side to what took place last week, and this is a young student at Daniel, and he's sharing. These are photos of him having a great time in the snow. But there were also some challenging situations that came out of last week, and so I want to be able to speak to those and give you an update there. This morning, I had an opportunity to go to several campuses and get a tour of some of the damage that took place throughout our district. And I started my day at Kennemer Middle School, and there is significant damage there at Kennemer Middle School. We had several pipes to burst, and we had water throughout the building, in particular the gymnasium there. The entire gymnasium has water damage. It's starting to raise up and ripple up. There's water basically just kind of stagnant underneath several of the wooden floor panels there, and so it has that smell and that odor, et cetera, where the water is starting to really build up there. It was a pretty challenging thing to see. I mean, it kind of took your breath away. But we are definitely going to have to be in a situation to replace that. So the gym itself is just not going to be usable for an extended period of time. And so the campuses, they're adjusting and using another gym as a operable place to hold students as they transition from class to class. And so the good thing is basketball season is over for the middle schools, and so we don't have games in there scheduled, but there was substantial damage there in the gymnasium. Then I went to the library there, still at Kennemer, had substantial water damage there. I think the carpet area in the library and in one of the labs is going to need to be replaced. And so there, some of the computers and some of the wiring associated with the computers, everything that you would typically see in a library, those items also had water damage. And so it's going to be a challenge. From there, I went to Fair Meadows. That's the bottom right photo you see there. That's the librarian there at Fair Meadows. And so, again, the carpet in that particular area is just water damage. It's just substantial water damage. And so we're going to have to go in and remove that. Several of the books and computers and other technology devices that they were able to show me this morning had lots of damage. Then went to Duncanville High School, and so we had some water damage there, but not as substantial. We were fortunate in many other areas, to not have as much damage as what could possibly been the case. These were some of our more challenged areas, and so I did want to take this opportunity just to share the work that our maintenance staff has done to get us prepared to come to school today. There was a lot of individuals that really put in a lot of hours dealing with the water, getting the water prepared, getting the buildings prepared and the water up from the floors, vacuuming, putting those industrial fans up to try to dry the areas that have been saturated with water. And so a lot of work went into that, and so we appreciate our maintenance staff, our maintenance department, who made it possible for us to even have school on today in certain areas. So we really appreciate them and the work that they have done. We've already started to make contact with the insurance adjusters, and we have documented the damage, and they are going to be out in the field over the remainder of this week and potentially next week. And so we'll be coming back forward to the board, just sharing that information with you, what some of the costs are associated with that. And we're wanting to get at the front of the line so that we can get our buildings back up to par. Everyone is just doing the best they can to provide services in other ways and make adjustments. And so I know our staff will do a good job there. The next item that I had is wanted to give you some information on Operation Connection. You may have seen right before we had the winter break there was a lot of positive publicity that our district garnered from our efforts to go and re-engage our students. And so it was a great day. It was an awesome day. And so I wanted to share some data with you, and then we'll share the video so that you can get a sense of what that day was. We went to 100 families' homes across the district, and as of February 12th, we have seen 26 students return to in-person learning. And so we're really proud of that number as a result of us just going out, walking communities, walking the streets, knocking on doors and seeing what the needs are. We had 26 students return to in-person. And then we had 31 students to re-engage, meaning they had kind of checked out and weren't logging on to their computer for a number of reasons. A house that I went to, the mother was working every day, and she was thinking that her daughter was logging on to the computer. Well, I'm standing there in their doorway talking to the mom, and she called her daughter right there in front of me and basically, said, "Hey, I'm going to work every day, and I'm thinking that you're logging on, and now I'm learning that's not the case." So it's stories like that where the parents are really doing the best they can, but they have to work and they have to trust that their child is logging on. And when you don't have that support and that supervision at home, it may or may not be happening at the level it needs to. So it's good to see these students are coming back in person and based on our efforts to reach out and get them. And so this video just captures a few key moments from that process. And so we'll share the video with you. We don't have any volume.
Up in school. 55% of Duncanville ISD bullying this year because of the pandemic, and today, school staffers went door to door reaching out.
Yes, it's good to meet you. Are they learning at home, or are they coming to school face to face? So we left the care package. That care package has a nice T-shirt and some information in school and any assistance and help that they may need to get back in school. All right. Do you have the technology that you need? You have a laptop, computer to log in? Are you having any problems logging in?
I was telling her that I think it's time for her to go back.
Yeah.
Her grades are not going up,
Yes.
and I can't be with her 20%.
Absolutely. So this was our last home visit, and it was probably the best one that we've had today. The mother and the daughter, they're definitely considering returning back to face-to-face instruction. So we're going to be following up with them, and they happen to go to school where Amber works at Cameron.
And as mayor of the city of Duncanville, I want to put on Martha, Albury, Gordon, and we're always so proud of what goes on in our Duncanville Independent School District and what Dr. Smith and all his faculty do to support our kids and teaching our kids during a very, very difficult time.
So today we had about 63 volunteers. We were targeting 100 students. And so those 63 volunteers went out to families and went out to homes and tried to re-engage and connect those students. And Dr. Nix and other leaders who really spearheaded this event, we certainly appreciate them and their leadership. And this is the halfway point for us in the school year, and we're trying to give them all the tools that they need to be successful and have a strong finish to the school year. So, board, thank you. So the first part of the video really showed a lot of the media attention that we were getting throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so it was just a great opportunity. Our ambassadors were, serve as our leaders in training. They did an awesome job of supporting us with that effort. And so I certainly wanted to acknowledge them and the work that they do. They'll be here later on this evening, and so you'll have an opportunity to meet them. Those are the items that I have for you, Madam President. I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Great job, great job. We appreciate all that you're doing and your commitment to our district. We will now move to recognitions. I will turn the meeting over to Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. As always, it is an honor to come before you and celebrate the great things happening here in Duncanville ISD and share the good news of the district. So, up first, I'd like to invite our Made with Pride in Duncanville honorees for the month of February. First, we have Ms. Escoto, who is a teacher at Daniel Intermediate. And Ms. Escoto, could you come on up, please? So Ms. Escoto was nominated by a teacher, a co-teacher at Daniel, Ms. Vanessa Jenkins. She is described as a professional, well-organized, consistent, and a true leader on campus. The saying at Daniel is, if you have no idea about a question or a topic, Escoto knows. And so everyone will say that anytime someone needs an answer, Escoto knows. So Ms. Escoto, she engages her students, builds relationships with them. Her energy and commitment make students just excited to learn. While students of hers were participating in virtual learning, she would regularly mail home weekly prizes to kids to keep them engaged and excited about learning. She believes in sharing what she knows and her best practices, and that's probably most evident when she has used the swivel system. So she has used swivel to handle her class, as well as teaching some other classes when teachers are out. So there was one point where she was teaching 2 classes while a sub managed that class because she was maintaining and helping those classes stay ahead because they didn't have a math substitute. But with her guidance using the system, the swivel system, she was able to maintain that and help those students stay connected until their teacher returned. And so again, she believes in stretching and reaching and supporting those around her. And when you talk about best practices and taking care of those others in the district, she is also one of those teachers who just finds everything you can possibly find, every opportunity. So she uses Donors Choose to fund projects regularly on campus. There are things that are needed by the school or maybe just perks that they would like to receive. I think at one point, Mr. Chase mentioned that they were going to get a popcorn machine as a result of Donors Choose and Mrs. Scotto's efforts. And so teachers go to her because she's that person who, again, has the answers and she knows the information. And she is always willing to share and support others. So for this and many, many other reasons, Mrs. Scotto is our Made with Pride in Duncanville Teacher of the Month. All right. So Ms. Scotto is going to hold just a second and we'll do a group photo at the end. And up next, our Student of the Month actually could not be here today. She and her family, like so many others, are dealing with damages to their home. And so they are trying to make sure that they take care of those repairs. So they could not make the meeting tonight. And they were really disappointed because they really wanted to be here. But our Student of the Month is Miss Sierra King. She's a senior at Duncanville High School. She was actually nominated by a family member, her mother, Bridget King. And so Miss King, Sierra, she really embodies what Made with Pride in Duncanville means for many reasons. First, she is a native Duncanville student. She has been in Duncanville her entire elementary through high school career, and she also excels in academics consistently. She's part of the engineering endorsement at Duncanville High School, maintains an A average in pre-AP, AP, and dual credit courses. She is always on the honor roll. And she's been accepted into her first college of choice. She is going to be attending the University of Texas at Dallas, majoring in biomedical engineering. And in addition, she is a community servant. She believes in giving back to kids and other peers around her. She actually spent the summer before her junior year becoming a USA basketball licensed coach. So now she's a junior assistant coach. And so she believes in giving back to kids in that fashion. She's been a manager for the Pantherettes in past years. And so she just believes in continuing to give to others, as well as excelling personally and professionally. And so for this, again, and many, many other reasons, we are honored to celebrate Miss Sierra King, our Made with Pride in Duncanville Student of the Month. You'll hear a little bit more about her in the video whenever we play that at the end of this section. And last but not least, we have our Made with Pride in Duncanville Staff of the Month, Miss Elizabeth Venegas. All right. Elizabeth, or Liz, as everyone calls her, is a shining example of reliability and perseverance. She started in the secretary position for the safety and security team and quickly became the person that everyone turned to for support. She developed a reputation within her department and within the school as a whole that she would just spend the hours it takes to get the job done. And she takes care of those around her. She is kind, approachable, she has a nurturing personality, and just the ability to create a positive vibe at work, regardless of what's going on. So when the district started the Duncanville ISD Police Department in 2018, she was chosen for the secretary position for the police department and has just continued that same call of service, that call of duty to give and care for others. She continues to keep the team together, not only by her work ethic, but just her dedication to people. She definitely represents what it means to be made with pride in Duncanville, and we're honored to recognize her as our Staff Member of the Month. So I'd like to play a video that shows just a little bit about each of these honorees, and there are people who will share more about their stories. So we could cue the video, please.
Duncanville ISD. Duncanville ISD congratulates the following student, staff member, and teacher who are made with pride in Duncanville.
I am the secretary to Police Chief Hampton, and for the police department.
Let's go ahead and stop the video. And
Honestly, I love the atmosphere.
let's reboot the video and take photos, and we'll continue with the ceremony and then play that in just a moment. While we wait for that reboot and we'll get photos of the team, I did want to continue on, but we will come back to our Made with Pride honorees before they walk out the room. But I didn't want to stop your attention from that video. In addition, last month, or actually a couple of months ago, the board made some changes to how donations were going to be recognized at board meetings. And so this is our first meeting where we've had some donations that needed to be announced and celebrated right here during the recognitions point of the ceremony. So I wanted to start off, we have 3 donations this past month that I wanted to read off to you while they work on taking care of that technical difficulty. So the first we have is a donation of $2,000 from Randall Richard, Varn Enterprises McDonald's. He actually donated $2,000 to the girls' basketball team for equipment items. And so that is a recognition for Randall Richard, Varn Enterprises of McDonald's, $2,000 cash donation to the girls' basketball team for equipment items. So we're really honored and glad to be able to receive that very kind and generous donation from him. Another one, the second one we received was an Adopt a Classroom from Leet Low. They donated $250 worth of diverse books to Fair Meadows Elementary School. So again, a book donation worth $250 for Fair Meadows Elementary School for Adopt a Classroom, Leet Low. And our third and final donation is a donation from Creating a Change Foundation, and they donated $1,000 worth of school supplies for students at Reed Middle School. So again, school supplies donated to Reed Middle School worth $1,000 from Creating a Change Foundation. And so again, as we continue to receive donations and honor and recognizing those people who take the time to give of themselves and give freely, that will be a segment of the recognitions moving forward consistently. And so I wanted to make sure that we took the time to present that with you to you today. Okay, thank you. And we're going to try that video again.
Duncanville ISD congratulates the following student, staff member, and teacher who are made with pride in Duncanville.
I am the secretary to Police Chief Hampton, and for the police department. Honestly, I love the atmosphere. I love working with the police department. I love being able to see different sides of things that happen, you know, and just being a part of the good in the district and being able to witness it and see it. I mean, I love it so much and being able to help. I think I look at it as I know that the workload that Chief Hampton has or Chief McGinty observes is a lot different than what I have to deal with on a daily basis. So if there's something that I can do to make their day easier, I don't mind doing it. If it takes that one thing off their list, I know it's appreciated and it's helpful.
I'm engineering teacher and dual credit facilitator for the Advanced Mechatronics Certification Program with Dallas College. It takes dedication. It takes a certain skill set. Sierra has made a way and distributed excellence. This had excellence in all of those areas. One thing that was very, very critical, last spring when COVID hit, I had a difficult time getting some of our students engaged. And she made phone calls, she texted, she helped. She's also mentoring 2 female engineering students this year as well that I have in some of the lower level classes. And so I'm excited. It takes all that in my class and more to be successful. And she's done that and will be a great chemical engineer in the future?
I teach sixth grade math, so the beginnings of algebra and leading into middle school. So I'm the foundation of middle school and Algebra 1. I actually enjoy making math more relevant for my students and explaining why they need it in life. The light bulbs that go off in the students when they actually understand something, or they tell me that I went to the restaurant and I calculated the percent for a tip for my parents because they didn't know how to do it. So they were able to apply their learning outside of the classroom. I love my sixth graders just because they're growing and there's so many life lessons and academic lessons you could teach them at this age. So this is my favorite age level.
These honorees truly are made with pride in Duncanville.
Thank you, technology, for working out the kinks with the video. In the room, we have family, personal family, and then school family members of each of our honorees here. So I'd like to also ask those people to stand and be recognized too. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. And to the honorees, we just want to say we appreciate you for sharing your passion, your love, the commitment, and the dedication that you share with the students and your peers. So thank you all for being so awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move to communication from citizens to discuss.
Actually, we got a couple more.
Oh, are we still? I'm sorry. Sorry.
Still doing recognitions. We have quite a few more for you.
Good catch.
All right. So, recognitions tonight have been extended, and because we just have so many great things to talk about. Earlier, you heard Dr. Smith speak about Operation Connection. Well, that day would not have happened without these leaders standing next to me. These are the individuals, the leaders in the district, who took it upon themselves to spearhead this effort. I'm going to give you the names of each of them and also hand out their certificates and then read a little bit more about them. So, Ms. LaTanya Dennis. And Ms. Dennis is an AP at Fair Meadows Elementary. Ms. Delonda Robinson, who is an AP at Reed Middle School. Ms. LaTanya Hall, who is an assistant principal at Hastings Elementary. And then Ms. Tiffany Smith, who is an assistant principal at Brandenburg Intermediate School. Not here today because, again, we have people and family that are dealing with different tragedies right now and just trying to recover. So we had people who could not quite make it but really wanted to be here. And one of those was teacher specialist Claude Anthony Childs. He couldn't make it today, but he is also on this leadership team and definitely a part of this process. So Operation Connection came together when these ILA ambassadors, Inspiring Leadership Academy ambassadors, came together with our chiefs of schools and saw the need to go back into our communities and try to re-engage students. And as Dr. Smith has said repeatedly, have we exhausted all possibilities? These leaders said, no, we can do more. And so they organized the process, they organized all the volunteers, they organized the day to make sure that they had committees pulled together. So not only are there leaders in the sense of their work, but they're leaders in the sense that they have brought others together to do the work of the district. And when you can garner that sort of support, get people to follow you and understand what it takes to have a successful event, an event that directly impacts students, that is impressive. And so these leaders who stand on either side of me really stepped up and made a huge difference with Operation Connection. And I know that we'll see much, much more from them, and we're super excited about that. So I did want to take just a strong moment to recognize and acknowledge their work and their effort to make Operation Connection the success that you saw. So congratulations again to these ambassadors, these leaders in the school district for Operation Connection.
Thank you, ambassadors. You all did an amazing job. And just, what was it, 26, Dr. Smith? 26 students that we were able to bring back. So you all if we could give y'all hugs right now, we would, because y'all are the superheroes, and we appreciate you. Thank you for your time and effort.
Thank you all. And we'll get a group photo of you guys if you don't mind before we go to the next recognition. Thank you. All right, I said we had recognitions galore tonight, right? All right, so we have 2 more sets of recognitions that I wanted to make sure that we brought before you. The next one up is Duncanville High School's PTSA president, Ms. Sandra Gates. So for those of you who don't know, Ms. Gates is the person to turn to, and I think most of you have met her and know her. You've probably been invited to join the Duncanville High School PTSA as a result of your role in the district. In her time in this president role, just in the last year, Ms. Gates has grown the membership of the Duncanville High School PTSA to well over 100. Now, for her, she feels like that's small potatoes. She has a much, much higher goal. But just in the last year, she's grown and added at least 40 members to the PTSA during a pandemic when we've seen a challenge in engagement. So the fact that she is making that effort and growing that relationship right now really means a lot. And I know there's going to be much more. During her time here, she is also continuing to make connections with our community so that they understand how they can truly impact our schools, but in particular, our high school. She has worked with the Walmart organization, the one right down the street over on Wheatland Road. They've made a considerable donation to the high school because of some of the efforts of bringing those groups together. She's also worked with a local sorority to get them to support the Panther Pantry, which takes care of students in need on campus at the high school. So again, in her role as the president of the PTSA at the high school, she is growing those connections and growing those connections through the other PTSAs within the district. We know that everything we need to get accomplished, we need to make sure that we're using all of our resources. And our parents and our guardians and our community members are our biggest resources. And so she is helping us grow that and develop that further. So, Ms. Gates, we are very proud and honored to recognize you today, and thank you for all that you do.
Ms. Gates, I just want to say you are amazing. I've witnessed the work that you've done and you put in, and we really appreciate what you're doing at the high school. We really do.
I'm not the only one. I do work with other board members, and I've spoken with several of you all. Ms. Fahey, Ms. Corsville, Ms. Phillips, you all, and I know you, Dr. Ives. You all have done wonderful support. Dr. Smith and Mr. McDonald, so that's why we're able to do what we do. But I do have teachers at the high school and parents, so thank you so much.
Thank you for putting the team together.
All right. So I have one final recognition. We could probably keep going all night, but you have business to handle. We have one final recognition to bring before you. So the last group we're recognizing are our leaders for the Duncanville High School Choir. Join us. All right. So before us tonight, we have Duncanville High School Choir Director, Mr. Jesse Cannon, and Duncanville High School Assistant Choir Director, Ms. Casey Levy. Many of you know that the Duncanville High School a cappella choir recently filmed their submission, their performance for the 2021 American Choral Directors Association National Conference. That was recorded just a couple of weeks ago at Dallas Baptist University. And if you were able to attend that and see that performance, it was so moving. I've seen recordings of it, and it is powerful. The talent of our students, and that's under the leadership of these two here. And we've seen that grow over the years and continue to accelerate. So that choir and that performance is going to be broadcast before the National ACDA next month, and it is a big honor to be chosen to do so. The title of the program is called The Journey, and it looks at life of its own and of these young men who are performing. The Journey is just a special meaning, especially right now with everything that our communities are going through. And so their journey is one that we can all relate to. I'm sure their peers can, and we can each find our own purpose within that. And so their performances were really powerful based on that. In fact, Mr. Cannon and Ms. Levy actually brought a couple of box gifts for you guys to show you what they've been presenting and showcasing with the journey. So they have shirts in there, and they also have other gifts that the students actually were able to utilize for this performance. And so those are for you before you leave the meeting tonight. In addition to this really powerful performance and leading these young men and these students through this journey, Mr. Cannon was recently chosen as the TMEA Vocal Division Vice President. That is a really big honor. It's a statewide honor. It's an esteemed position that the peers across the state, his peers across the state chose. So he will be representing choir directors all across the state of Texas in this position. And in doing so is representing Duncanville. And we know that he will do a great job at it, and we're really proud and honored to have you leading in that position. So again, we're here today to recognize our choir department and the leadership they've shown. We would have loved to have the students here, but we've been trying to manage some of the attendance at the meetings. So these two are here representing the choir department as a whole, and so we are honored to recognize them for all of their achievements moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Cannon, and is it Ms. Leby? Leby. I just want to say that performance at Dallas Baptist was amazing. And you all, I mean, just watching the students not only perform, but preparing them for life after high school, it's just amazing to watch. So thank you all for what you're doing. You're doing a great job.
And that concludes the recognitions for this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. Okay, we will now move to communication from citizens to discuss pending agenda items before the board. And we do not have any communications from citizens regarding a pending agenda item. So we will now move to take action on items discussed in closed session. All right, do I have a motion to approve the Chief Technology Officer as discussed in closed session? Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved, and Trustee Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passed, 6-0. Thank you, board. I'm sorry, yeah. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Brown to introduce our new Chief Technology Officer.
Well, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to introduce you all tonight to Dr. Brian Brown. Dr. Brown brings over 20 years of experience to his new role as the Chief Technology Officer in Duncanville ISD. A graduate of Southeastern Oklahoma State University, he started his career in education as a secondary science teacher and website manager in Moore Public Schools, and then went on to teach in Commerce ISD. He received his master's and his doctorate degrees in educational administration, curriculum, and supervision from the University of Oklahoma, with an emphasis in educational technology. His dissertation focused on examining the relationship between digital literacy and student achievement in Texas elementary schools. With a passion for technology and its impact on student learning, Dr. Brown served as the Director of Technology Services and later as the Executive Director of Community Relations, Technology, and Grants in Melissa ISD. In this role, he effectively directed all district communications, information technology operations, and educational technology initiatives for the district. Since 2015, he has served as Executive Director of Data Management and Educational Information at the University of Texas at Arlington. Dr. Brown also serves on the Board of Directors for the largest educational technology organization in the state, the Texas Computer Education Association, known as TCEA. He is also serving as the convention chair this year and as the finance chair for 2021 through 2023. His presentations, publications, and extensive involvement in his community speaks for itself. One of his peers had this to say about him: "He is an exceptional leader who goes above and beyond on a daily basis. Not only is he passionate about his work, he is also passionate about the people and the impact technological decisions have on their ability to do their work and student learning. He is an ultimate professional who is truly a lifelong learner that will make such an impact on your organization." It is my pleasure to introduce you all to Dr. Brian Brown as the new Chief Technology Officer for Duncanville ISD. I'll turn it over to Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, and thank you, Dr. Smith, Board of Trustees. I really do appreciate the opportunity and look forward to serving the staff and students here in the school district. And that made me sound really great, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I would just like to say we are excited to have you here. We're looking forward to all that you're going to bring to Duncanville ISD and sharing your knowledge and experience and passion. We're just really excited to have you here. Does anyone else have any words that they would like to share with Dr. Brown?
Yeah, just welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Okay. We will now move to conduct a public hearing to allow public. Oh,
From action to
where is it at? Check it out. Sorry, y'all. Having a night. Okay. Give me just a second. Oh, that was. It was next. It was next. It's here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
So you want to do that first?
No, you can follow
Okay.
your script.
Okay, so we will now move to conduct a public hearing to allow public participation in the discussion of the Texas Academic Performance Report, or TAPER. I will turn the meeting over to Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Annually, we review the TAPER report. I've asked Dr. Halachka and key members of her team and also Dr. Sewell to be present because they also have a role in this information. Lots of details that we'll be sharing with you from a few years ago, actually, because of the lag time in which this report is covering the information. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Halachka, and she'll lead us in the presentation.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. I'm pleased to present this public hearing of the 2019-2020 annual report in accordance with Texas Education Code 39.306 and Board Policy AIB Legal. Each year, following the publication of the Texas Academic Performance Report, or TAPER report, the district is required to present a comprehensive annual report with 6 required components listed here. This year is, of course, a little bit different because we do not have any state assessment scores for the 2019-2020 school year due to the pandemic. Therefore, much of the data and information you will be presented this evening is lagging data from the 2018-2019 school year and even earlier. So let's get started this evening with the Texas Academic Performance Report. The TAPER report is made available to us in 2 formats, PDF and through a comprehensive online data system. The PDF version includes only the statutorily required data. The TAPER report is provided at the district level and for each campus. At the district level, there's a cover page that for Duncanville ISD includes the district's accountability rating, which is not rated, declared state of disaster, and our special education determination status, which is the same as it was in 2018-2019. The TAPER report is posted on the district website along with the TAPER glossary for stakeholder review and access. The campus TAPER reports are also posted on the individual campus websites. It's important to note that the TAPER data is lagging data based on prior year performance. Because of COVID-19, districts and campuses did not receive a letter grade rating this past year. Instead, they were all given a rating of not rated, declared state of disaster. Therefore, the data you see on the TAPER report is from the 2018-2019 school year, making it nearly 2 years in the lag. So we will continue to celebrate that in 2019, Duncanville ISD received an overall district accountability rating of a B, which still puts us number 1 in the best Southwest. In 2020, there were also no distinction designations issued due to the STAR testing cancellation. However, I'm sharing what was received in 2019, which was an increase from 10 to 14 academic distinctions. For the 2020 TAPER, the content data, as shown on this slide, has again not been updated since STAR was not administered and is the same as the 2019 TAPER report. As we have discussed in previous meetings, although the district does not have STAR data, we are continuing to measure student performance through local and interim assessments, but for the sake of this required report, we only present at this time the data in the state TAPER report. However, we do want to share some of the key initiatives for addressing academic performance. We have placed significant focus on curriculum development, understanding, and alignment, creating processes to guide lesson planning to support rigor, and we have provided coaching to support teachers with instructional excellence. For further clarification, let me briefly explain each initiative, starting with the 3C analysis in your top left-hand corner. As a district, we had to create a common language and understanding of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS, to ensure that teachers are teaching at the level required by TEA and the STAR test. In each grade level, the TEKS have student expectations, and these contain 3 parts, which in Duncanville we call the 3 C's: the content, context, and cognitive level of the standard. We have embraced the 3C method in order to provide teachers and campus instructional leadership teams a systematic method to understand the depth and complexity of each student expectation or standard required for student mastery at each level. This understanding is key so that teachers know what to teach, which is your grade level content, how to teach it, which is the ways to explain it to our students, as well as the complex level that is required by the TEKS. At the right top square, you see the initiative of curriculum development. In February of 2020, district teams entered into the development of curriculum guides that provide direction, objectives, and strategies to ensure equity in the alignment of the written and taught curriculum in the 4 content areas. Focus groups were formed and feedback was given for teachers, administrators, and specialists. Teams began working on this as a result of the curriculum management audit and the recommendations of the auditors to revamp the curriculum guides. The content coordinators have led these efforts, with the teams being comprised again of teachers and teacher specialists. At the bottom right, you will see the 3rd initiative related to the backward design process. Backward design is a way for teachers and administrators to review how a learning standard or student expectation is tested. This is critical for ongoing teacher learning of the high levels expected for the STAR test, so that they teach at that complexity required for students to be successful. To do this, teachers review the district assessments as a learning tool to see what is tested, how items are written on the district assessments, and the complex multi-step ways in which the items are tested. Through this process, teachers learn how to make instructional decisions and how to teach at that higher level that the STAR requires for students to meet state standards. The fourth initiative, serving as a primary focus for the district, is classroom instructional coaching. Teacher specialist training and collaboration events are held the first Friday of each month, where the teams are continuously learning how to utilize the curriculum guides that we've previously discussed and using the 3C model to monitor classrooms and support staff on improving content teaching. They also are trained monthly on leading professional learning communities and analyzing student achievement data. Instructional technology training is provided to support with teaching strategies and as well as Google Classroom and student engagement. They also receive results coaching to practice instructional coaching for impacting classroom achievement with ratios of time spent on teachers who have higher needs. You may be asking, how do they decide which teacher to coach? Well, there's several ways they do this, including based on principal request, observations of instruction, as well as what the student data is saying. Ideally, they want to coach all teachers, but they increase those teacher supports and visits based on what the data is showing. We know each of these efforts will have a positive impact on instructional quality and student academic success as we move forward with our performance. Okay. In addition to the TAPER report, the public hearing of the annual performance report must include a discussion of the campus performance objectives. Each campus in Duncanville has developed a campus improvement plan in collaboration with their shared decision-making committees that includes performance objectives aligned to the 2020-2021 board goals and in response to an analysis of data and a needs assessment. The campuses have posted their improvement plans on their campus websites and evaluate progress towards achieving their objectives every quarter. New this year, quarterly reviews are facilitated with principals by central administration to ensure each campus is working towards the attainment of their performance objectives. In November, the board was presented the campus plans as required by policy, which included their campus performance objectives. Later this evening, you'll hear more about our strategic planning process that will lay the foundation for campus planning in the upcoming year. The third reporting category is student performance in post-secondary institutions. As a district, we are required to report how students are performing during the first year enrolled in an institute of higher education after graduation. This data is obtained from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board for public universities and colleges only, and is always lagging data. The most current data is the performance of our 2018 graduates that attended either a 4-year or 2-year public university or college. The number of students enrolling in higher education after high school show a decrease for Duncanville because fewer of our 2018 graduates enrolled in post-secondary institutions, and therefore we had fewer students achieving at that higher GPA at or above a 3.0 in 2018 as opposed to 2017. Of course, a lot has changed in Duncanville since the time period of this data. Since 2017-2018, post-secondary opportunities and success have been a focus for Duncanville ISD, whether partnering with Dallas County Promise to provide students with college opportunities, to the establishment of our Collegiate Academy and other high school choice programs. Duncanville High School is one of the only schools in the state, is the only school in the state of Texas to offer an early college high school, Pathways in Technology Early College High School program, which is PTech, we call PTech, and a Texas Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math program called T-STEM. Currently, we have over 900 students enrolled in these dual credit programs that allow students to earn college credit while in high school and ensures post-secondary success. As you can see from the data in the blue box, we currently have 80 and that's a big number, of our Collegiate Academy students that are on track to walk across the stage at the end of the year with both a high school diploma and an associate's degree. We are continuing to provide more opportunities for students to take college entrance exams on campus, and we are providing multiple preparation courses and materials to ensure higher performance and success. In addition, with the addition of the EduGens, we have a comprehensive data dashboard now that allows us to monitor college, career, and military readiness. Therefore, we can more readily support interventions, improvements, and success. As we'll discuss later on this evening, we are now also setting our sights on creating choice programs aligned to post-secondary success at all levels in Duncanville ISD. Our next reporting category is our PEIMS Financial Standard Reports. As you are aware, the financial condition of the district is routinely reported to the board throughout the school year. However, we must also inform the public through the annual report of what and where financial data is available. The types of PEIMS financial standard reports are listed here for the district and campuses and are available on TEA's website as well. Most current data is also made available on the district's website under Business Services and Financial Transparency. Due to the district's unwavering focus on fiscal transparency and efficiency, Duncanville ISD has been able to maintain the highest rating awarded on the state's first rating system, and our audits have been free of substantial findings. In addition, there is ongoing dialogue with the board, principals, and senior leaders to ensure the financial state of the district is continuously evaluated. These actions are what have allowed us to withstand the struggles of the pandemic and be able to continue to support our programs and our people through it all. The fifth required annual reporting category is that of violent or criminal incidents. Of the 19 violent and criminal incident codes, we only had incidents in 5 of these violent or criminal incident categories. This information demonstrates that our efforts as a district to address disciplinary matters ensures our schools are safe for our students. As you would expect, a majority of the incidents take place at the high school level, and although we would love to get each data point to 0, we must be realistic and continue to guide our students in their behavior choices. One data point that demonstrates our progress is our DEAP placements. Our focus on addressing mitigating factors, implementing the restorative practices, and alternative disciplinary approaches have resulted in a 15% decline from 2018-19 to 2019-20 in disciplinary alternative education placements, or DAEP. And in addition to that, we've seen a 39.4% decline in our overall discipline incidents across the district. Of course, this decline is even greater this year due to the pandemic, but we do feel as though our efforts to address student behavior choices are making a substantial difference. Some of these efforts include the outstanding work, of course, taking place by the Duncanville ISD Police Department, as well as our social-emotional support counselors and programs. We have also focused on training our campuses on restorative practices, trauma-informed care, as well as threat assessments. This year, with the implementation of EduGens, we are also better able to track and monitor our disciplinary actions at the campuses to provide coaching and support. We are also piloting several drug intervention and prevention programs, since this is one of those factors for alternative placements. And of course, providing students with mentors has been a key prevention measure as well. Now, our sixth and final annual report category is the district's accreditation status. The state considers a district's accountability rating, financial rating, data integrity, and program area deficiencies when considering a district's status.
with Duncanville ISD's previous B rating for academic performance, A superior rating for financial accountability, and the extensive efforts made to improve data quality and program effectiveness, well, it's no wonder that Duncanville ISD remains an accredited district. So with that, this concludes the 2019-2020 annual report for the Duncanville Independent School District. And since this is a public hearing, we can now open the floor for any questions or comments from the Board of Trustees or audience.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Are there any public comments on the 2020 District Texas Academic Performance Report or taper?
I have questions, but no comment.
Dr. Ivory?
That was a lot of information. Thank you so much for presenting that. I have a couple of questions on the key initiatives. Could we have that slide back?
Yes. It's a little bit before that.
If you could advance back, please.
That's it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the 3C analysis. When is this happening?
It happens all the time, but it is something that is an ongoing process. I will let Dr. Sewell address that because this is definitely in her area of expertise.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Lotchka. Thank you, Dr. Ivory.
Sure.
The 3 C's, again, the study of content, context, and cognitive rigor began last year. And so through the administrative training for our instructional leaders, our campus leaders, principals, assistant principals, and teacher specialists, we've been on an ongoing journey. And so we're continuing to refine that to where we unpack what a student expectation is, and we help teachers and help our campus leadership teams to continue to unpack those based upon those 3 C's. But we've established that common language, and we're very proud of that. We're still working on refining, but we're very proud of that work.
So I'm just trying to visualize it. Who's meeting and how do you drill that down? I'm just trying to see how that happens.
Oh, great. What we do is we train at the district level and we practice. And so we will get student expectations, and then Dr. Tiffany King, who's the executive director of curriculum instruction, she really has worked with our instructional leaders at the campus levels and the chiefs to take a standard and then highlight and categorize the content, the what, the context, the how, and then what level of cognitive rigor do the verbs require in those student expectations. So we begin there, and then we go to the campuses, and in the professional learning community's time frame, the teacher specialists are also trained separately, so they come together with the principal or the administrator that's in the professional learning community and work with the teachers in practice.
Okay, so the directors are trained, and then the directors train the principals?
Yes, Dr. King, the executive director, has been the lead on that project.
Okay, and how does that trickle down to the teachers? Who trains them? When is the PD happening for them with that?
With the teacher specialists and in the professional learning community environment. And so when they look at standards and they plan their universal lessons or their common lessons, they go to the curriculum guides, they look at what those standards are for the week, and then they look at how to unpack those based upon content, context, and cognitive rigor. And so they work through that with the teacher teams by grade level and department. And some are more advanced than others depending upon how experienced the teachers are or how new they are to the process. But that is how it trickles down to the classroom. And then some teachers that need more support, as Dr. Halachka mentioned with coaching, our teacher specialists are there to help.
Okay. On that same slide, it was the backwards design process?
Yes, ma'am.
How does that work?
Well, again, backward design began last year in its very first stages last fall in November, prior to the pandemic. And so with our district assessments, which are curriculum-based district assessments, what we have changed as a basis of the curriculum audit and just our growth is the district assessment is now released to the campuses, and we have a backward design process where they go through the assessment items, and they look at each item for what is it assessing, the content, the context, and at what verb and what rigor, cognitive rigor, do they look at for the assessment. And so with that assessment item, teachers are learning what is it I'm supposed to teach and how is it assessed. And am I teaching it at the level it's assessed so that I'm actually giving the students what they need based upon my unpacking of these assessment items and my knowledge and content growth.
I love the goal. I was just trying to understand the logistics, like who process shows teachers how to plan. Is this also part of PLC?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so we have continued just about monthly since we returned back from COVID this fall. We've picked it back up again and continued on that journey with training principals, teacher specialists. They train teachers in PLCs and then also coach outside when teachers need additional help. But that process of unpacking those standards is part of the backward design. And basically that process then ensures that teachers are not having activities and instruction that's not grade level appropriate and monitored for that alignment. And so then some of it is also coaching and classroom walkthroughs so that they can kind of monitor and make sure that the teachers are supported and that their content delivery is accurate.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else?
Thank you, Dr. Sewell.
Thank you.
Dr. Ivory, thank you. Are there any other public comments? The hearing is now closed. We will now move to the consent agenda. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion that we move items 9C and 9F to the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved to, do I have a second? Thank you, Trustee Colton. So Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved to move action item number 9C and 9F. Trustee Colton seconded the motion to amend, to amend the agenda as stated. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion passed 6-0. Thank you, Board. Now, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Trustee Carla Fahey moved.
Second.
Trustee Janice Savage Martin seconded the motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion passed 6-0. Thank you, Board. We will now move to the action agenda item A, approval of the request for proposal for firewall maintenance and request for proposal for wireless access points for Category 2 services. And the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to call up our substitute for Shantae Cowan over the last several months. Thank you for your leadership. She has taken on that challenge for me, and so she's going to be talking about our firewall and our E-rate services and basically the discounts that the district will have as a result. And then we also have our expert, who I know she will introduce.
Good evening, Madam President and board members and Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to be with you this evening to present information regarding our E-rate services. And I do have with me Mr. Brandon Thomas, who is our network engineer, and he works in the technology department. In case we have some questions that are more technical, then I will be able to answer. So I thank him for being with me. I told him earlier today that this is my swan song, hopefully, that we hired Dr. Brown tonight, and so I'm excited to be able to transition with him in the next few weeks. Tonight, board, just to give you a little background about E-rate, I know that many of you may be familiar, but I do want to kind of give you a little background about E-rate. E-rate is really commonly used name for the Schools and Libraries Program of the Universal Service Fund, which is administered by the Universal Service Administrative Company, or what we call USAC, under the direction of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. The program provides for discounts to assist schools and libraries in the United States to obtain affordable telecommunications and internet access. It is one of 4 support programs funded through the Universal Service Fee charged to companies that provide interstate and international telecommunication services. And the discounts for support really depend on the level of poverty of the school district, the urban or rural status of the population, and we can receive discounts from ranges of 20% up to 90%, depending on the cost of the eligible services. Board, last year, you approved E-rate services for Category 1 services. And it allowed Duncanville ISD to purchase internet services and UPSs. And UPSs are uninterruptible power sources. In other words, if indeed, like we did just this last week, lose power, these UPSs, which are really specialized type batteries that will back up the service to keep our internet going. And so you purchase those and internet services with our E-rate funds from last school year. In your board packet, we are requesting funds for Category 2 services, specifically for licensing and maintenance of our firewalls, hardware and software, and for our district-wide access points. And I think, talking to Mr. Thomas, we have about 1,200 access points across the district. Of course, you're familiar with the firewall. What the firewall will do is protect us from intruders in our system from outside, and it also assists us from having people internally go through the firewall to a site they should not. So that's one thing we're asking for tonight, along with the access points, which of course allow our students and staff to use their wireless connectivity. They don't have to be plugged in. They can use their devices wherever they are, which is what many of us are doing out in the hallway right now. You may be in November, and we'll get to the RFP of 2020, with the support of Kellogg and Sovereign LLC, the district issued a request for proposal to obtain vendor bids to purchase the licensing and maintenance of the firewall, as I've shared earlier, and the wireless access points. You may be wondering, who is Kellogg and Sovereign? They are our E-rate consultant that assisted us with the RFP process, including helping us to put together the RFP language. As you can imagine, it's very technical, and we have experts on site. Kellogg and Sovereign assisted us with that, along with advertising for us through the RFP portal that they have. And I want to tell you a little bit more about who Kellogg and Sovereign are. In my introductory remarks, I talked about the USAC. USAC administers E-rate. Kellogg and Sovereign is an E-rate consultant that has been approved by USAC. And over the last several years, we have used them to assist us. They assisted us last year because they're experts in this field. They, of course, have been in business since 1997. So they got into this business of helping school districts a year after E-rate became law in 1996. So they've been doing this work, supporting school districts now for about 24 years. As in your summary item, and on page 113 in your board book, there were 5 different vendors who responded to our RFP request, with 1 vendor responding to both RFPs. All the bidders' proposals were reviewed by technology and purchasing staff to make sure everything was in line with what we had requested. We are recommending for the RFP for the firewall maintenance and licensing to be awarded to Unified Connections, and for wireless access points to CDWG. Of course, we have positive, strong relationship with both of those vendors. They already have support in many areas and technology already within our school district. So we already have a long-standing relationship with both. Board, on page 122, you have the cost savings for the E-rate RFPs included in your packet. We provided you what the projected total cost would be, what the district's portion would be, and then with the E-rate funding and the savings of the approved funding. This is a 2-step process. Tonight, we'll bring this to you for your approval. Next month, we'll bring a resolution that we have to have that you will approve for us. Again, we're asking for your approval of E-rate Category 2 services, including approval of the RFP for the firewall maintenance and services and the wireless access points. This is for 21-22. We're a year ahead. This will assist us in our budget planning so that we know what the cost will be, particularly over the next 5 years with our wireless access points as we replace them. Their life expectancy ends in 2023, so we're trying to get ahead of that before any of them stop functioning. And so I'll be happy to entertain any questions and any other technical questions. Mr. Thomas is here.
Thank you, Mrs. Fields. Do I have a motion in regards to the approval of the request for proposal for firewall maintenance and request for proposal for wireless access points for Category 2 services?
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Janet Vera Cruz moved and Trustee Janice Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Trustee
I'm
Colton,
sorry,
is your
I
mic
can't hear
on?
you. I'm sorry.
Is your green light on? There you go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. No, I was saying thank you very much for your presentation. I really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question regarding the selection process and criteria.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at the data, it appears that the lowest bidder or did not, you all not recommending award to them. And
okay.
I know you have a process by which you went through to make that determination. Can you just, provide some details regarding how that decision was made? And I guess there's a category, other factors.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So, and can you just elaborate a little for me, please?
Yes, ma'am. As I stated earlier, we did allow Kellogg Sovereign to assist us with the RFP. Our resident experts, of course, were a part of that process where they are familiar with what we needed, when we needed, how we needed. When you look at the numbers of vendors that actually responded, it was low. But because we had relationships with the ones we're recommending already, that was a factor. the cost, could they do the job when we needed them to do it? Do they have the manpower to be able to help us when we would need it? And this, again, for next year. Looking at pricing, and then there were other factors, as you have pointed out, do they meet the district needs you see there? Or they have a past relationship? Do they understand the business, et cetera? So they looked at those, not necessarily what the pricing was, the person who had the lowest bid, but because of other factors. The other factors there, and I knew someone was probably going to ask about that. It also dealt with capacity, whether they had, again, the materials that we would need, the availability of it, the scope of the work, could they handle the scope, of course. And so even with some of the, one of the persons or vendors that did submit, they did not meet all of the data points. And so because of, again, strong past relationships, the work that they've done with us, the partnerships, we can pick up the phone, call the group. And so in essence, and you can see the bid tabs that, that the team, and I was not a part of the actual team, our director of purchasing and 3 other individuals from our technology department scored the vendors. And so the other factors included a lot of the things, ability to meet our needs, having the equipment, and then, of course, again, this would be for next school year.
Okay. Okay.
So the point system not only dealt with pricing, but it dealt with a whole lot of other factors. And I think the past relationships and the availability to be able to do the scope of work was really the deciding factor.
But these are the 2 that our consultant recommended.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And so, do we have relationships with the ones that were not successful?
Mr. Thomas?
My apologies for the delay. Yes, we do have a relationship with these other respondents. However, to echo Ms. Fields' sentiments, this also boiled down to the total cost of ownership outside of just a material purchase. Does it fit into our environment neatly, or are there additional components or services we have to procure to make that fit, to meet that price point? But those relationships and the quality of the response are kind of what we use to evaluate the total picture, not just the bottom price, if that makes sense.
Yes, you said that basically there are other components that this, and these are my words, plug into that makes the price more competitive.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of what I, is what I wanted to hear, basically.
Very well said.
I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you. That's why I wanted to make sure I had the backup.
Any other question, Trustee
I'd
Savage
just like to
Martin?
make a comment, Ms. Fields. I appreciate your description of E-rate. I worked here 21 years, not in technology, and I never understood what that was. So your explanation was very good.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you very much. I have been the pinch hitter, so I've had to do a lot of studying for sure.
You've done good.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Thank you, Mrs. Fields.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas. Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Okay, motion passed 6-0. Thank you all so much for your presentation. Okay, we will now move to action item D, Innovative Courses for 2020-2021. The presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. We're going to call in.
Don't we have B? B as in Betty.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just thought I was losing.
I had it in front of me down here, not there. Okay, so we are going to back up just a
Got
here.
it. Thank you.
We will now move to action item B, interlocal agreement with the Dallas Independent School District for police services, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. We're going to call up Chief Hampton. She's going to really speak to the board about some of the challenges that smaller agencies have and how it's advantageous to us to tap into some of the support we get from larger agencies. So we're going to ask if she could present and explain that to the board.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Smith, and the Board of Trustees. Tonight I bring before you an interlocal agreement to partner with Dallas ISD Police Department. This partnership will grant our newly developed police department Dispatch Communication Center access to TLETS. TLETS stands for Texas Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. TLETS is a secure public safety system that equips law enforcement officers with the most accurate and up-to-date intelligence information about people, driver license plates, venues, and various other law enforcement related matters on both the local and national level. TLETS is managed by Texas DPS. TLETS is a vital investigative tool for law enforcement. It assists officers with problem-solving tactics, decision-making processes, and it also provides the most effective, efficient, and safest solution to help law enforcement to protect and serve the community. Now, let me give a couple examples of what you all will understand TLETS to be. If you've ever been on a traffic stop before or just watching TV, you notice the officer walk up to the car, introduce themselves, and they ask, you have a driver license and proof of insurance. You give them the information that they're asking for, and then they tell you, stay seated, go back to the car. When they go back to the car, at the time that we go back to the car, we're actually connecting with our dispatcher via radio or our MDCs, and we're running you through TLETS. So TLETS is letting us know if there is a, say for instance, a bank robber. TLETS is going to tell us, hey, that person is wanted for a bank robber out of California. If that's a missing person, hey, TLETS is going to tell us that's a missing person out of Lubbock, Texas. Contact Lubbock Sheriff Department office. So it's going to give us that vital information about that person, either that license plate or even a venue in which they may be, an address or whatever. It's going to give us that updated information that we need. So how we use it in those ways, and say for instance, we're at school, we're dealing with a student. We're in the principal's office, we're talking to the student, we go run that student. Student could be a runaway. We won't know that unless we run TLETS or the parents pick up the phone and call the principal and say, hey, my student didn't come home, my child didn't come home last night. So when we run those students and things and they come back as runaways and things, then we have an obligation to hold on to those individuals. Contact the parent and say, hey, we have your student here, or contact the agency in which it occurred in, say Dallas, and say, hey, we have that runaway kid here. What do you want us to do with him? We'll contact parent, release him to the parent, clear that off the computer system, so therefore the next agency will already know that it's been dealt with and won't run across it as a runaway anymore. So that's how it's very important to us, because traffic stops are some of the dangerous situations that we deal with law enforcement. Could have just robbed a bank over in Addison, and now here you are driving in Duncanville. We stop you for running a stop sign. We don't know who you are, what just occurred, but when we stop you, we want to make sure that we're able to know exactly who we're dealing with and able to come up with a strategy in order to deal with you effectively. So that's when we get the information, go back and run it, and now we know that you're wanted out of another agency. So now what we're going to do is wait for a backup unit to get there. I'm not going to approach you again because I know that you're a wanted subject now. So I'm going to wait for another agency to get there, and once that other agency get there, we'll deal with the situation together. If the other agency don't get there and you drive off now, we know who we're dealing with, give that description over the radio, now everybody know who we're looking for, okay? So that's why it's very important for us as law enforcement to be able to connect to TLETS and be able to get that vital information that we need in order to manage the calls that we own from a day-to-day operation. So TLETS utilizes satellite for connectivity and often only grant access to the larger agencies. And some of you have heard me when I presented before talk about the relationships, talk about the mutual aid, that we as law enforcement, we work hand in hand with one another and we make sure that each other have what's needed. So therefore, with the Dallas and the Fort Worths and the Arlingtons, those are the agencies, the larger agencies that are going to actually get granted TLETS from DPS because they have more officers, they have more traffic stops, they engage and deal with the community more. So therefore, they want to make sure that they have what they need, and then they put the responsibility kind of back on the smaller agencies to build that relationship with the larger agencies, in which we need to do anyway, and then piggyback off of them in order for us to get TLES as well. So that's the purpose of building relationships and building partnerships with these law enforcement agencies so that when we don't have what we need, we have our surrounding agencies that will help us get what we need. And so that's what we're doing with Dallas ISD, to partner with them to get what we need from the TLES standpoint. So this partnership will only consist of connecting Dallas ISD computers to Duncanville ISD computer to Dallas ISD computers, so that one that houses TLES. This can be done through a VPN, NetMotion, various other softwares that are out there on the market today that will allow us to make that wireless connection. Now, I don't know if you all know about it, but there's also third-party venues out there. Southwest Region Communication Center is one of them. That's all they do is provide dispatch services. So they have TLEX connection. Duncanville PD utilizes Southwest Region Communication Center. Cedar Hill PD, Cedar Hill ISD, which are smaller agencies, don't have their own connection. They utilize Southwest Region Dispatch for a fee, a lot more than what we're going to be partnering with Dallas PD paying for their access. So just wanted to kind of show that to you, to show that this is common through law enforcement agencies, that we don't have what we need, but therefore we partner with the larger agencies to get what we need, and then we're able to operate the same as the larger agencies. So the budget, impact to the budget is going to cost, currently costs, what, $200 basically to become a user on Dallas ISD existing NetMotion software. And that may fluctuate from one year to the next depending on the third-party vendor as they increase and decrease their prices, but that's what we'll be looking at right now, and we'll be able to utilize that TLEX connection and run whatever we need to do in order to make sure that our officers out there are safe at the time that they're dealing with individuals in the community. So I also have a picture that you guys should have in your book there. It's basically just a picture of a diagram showing you what that partnership is. It's just connectivity. It's all electronic. It's not like we're going to go there, they're going to come here. They'll come here to do audits, but other than the day-to-day physically contacting with each other, that's not what the partnership is all about. The partnership is about connecting one computer to the next and being able to get the information that you need between the computer electronic devices. So I ask that you approve this partnership with Dallas ISD tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Chief Hampton, for that very informative presentation. Do I have a motion in regards to the interlocal agreement with the Dallas Independent School District for police services?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Trustee Janice Savage Martin and Trustee Colton. Trustee Janice Savage Martin moved, and Trustee Jacqueline Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Savage
I did
Martin.
have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
but you answered it very, very well. And it's something we should have had when you first came in here.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Trustee Colton.
Excellent job, Chief, on the presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I just have a question regarding the MOU and the ILA. The version that I have, and I'm not sure if I have the current one, it has it signed by Dr. Smith on December 1st, 2020. Is that the agreement, or is there
That is the agreement, and what occurred is that we thought, well, I need this TLEX connection to go ahead and be approved by DPS because remember we just hired a dispatcher. So the dispatcher is now currently in the E911 Academy. In order to be in the academy, they require that you have an open Fox number. Wow. We do not have an open Fox number because we do not have access to TLEX, so that open Fox number is going to have to come from this process. So because she had already started the academy, and we needed this number, then got with Dr. Smith and Ms. Cates, and we were able to push it through, just to get this number for her to have, and you see that we're still working through it. But that's the reason that it has that date, because we thought that we were going to, listening to Dallas, thought they were going to be able to push it through their board. So we thought that we were going to be able to get the process through a lot quicker than what we did, but we're still here dealing with it today.
Yeah. Dr. Smith, are we ratifying then?
No ratification is needed. No ratification is necessary to execute the MOU.
It's already executed.
No ratification is needed, though, to execute it.
So will it be re-signed?
No, it won't be re-signed. So basically what happened is, again, just from a timing standpoint, from Dallas ISD, we needed to go ahead and initiate this so that our person could get the number and the training that they were required to get. And so that's really why we went ahead and signed it. If the board approves this tonight, there's no reason to ratify it. It doesn't do anything in terms of what we're trying to do.
But it'll be re-signed based upon today's information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm all on board.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a wonderful tool for us.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comment? Dr. Ivory, you have a question?
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Wait,
So-
hold on just a second.
go ahead.
Dr. Ivory
I'm
had
sorry,
a question.
Dr. Ivory.
Or comment, or, no? Okay.
No?
Okay.
Okay, thank
Trustee
you, Madam President.
Vera Cruz.
So, my question is regarding the kids that come on the parking lot. Are the license plates always checked? Are they, when they drive to school, are their license plates checked in the system?
We don't, because we actually have those license plate documented in our system, because when they fill out the application for their parking permit, they have to add that license plate on there. So we know who's driving those vehicles, but we do periodically go out and scan the lot and check license plates, just to ensure that they are the correct license plate and that they do match the permit that's hanging there in their window. So we do have random checks that we go and check on the parking lot, just to make sure that they belong on that lot. So yes, we do that.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Ivory?
My question is really for Dr. Smith, and this is probably a novice question. So why do we need the process of board approval tonight if this is already signed and
It just formalizes the process and allows the board to take action.
got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Me signing it is one thing, but it's really not officially done until you all take action.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, thank you, Chief Hampton. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, none. Motion passed 6-0. Thank you, board. We will now move to action item D, innovative courses for 2020-2021. And the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you again, Madam President. I'm going to call up our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Sewell. She's going to review the innovative course selection process with you, and you can go ahead and begin.
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. The Texas Education Agency allows districts to offer innovative courses that are state approved for districts to engage in courses in different fields such as career technology education and other courses that are outside of the general curriculum for fine arts and core content. And so with that being said, I bring to you this evening the entire list that is TEA state approved for your consideration and approval so that we can expand and have flexibility in being able to offer innovative courses to our students as we deem appropriate. And so I would be happy to answer any questions that you all may have. This just gives us some flexibility in offering courses for graduation pathways and for our middle school choice.
Thank you, Dr. Sewell. Do I have a motion in regards to the innovative courses for 2020, 2021? Trustee Jacqueline Colton moved.
Second.
Trustee Janice Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Dr. Ivory?
Thank you. My question is, are we considering adding any cultural classes? Just happens to be Black History Month, but I'm wondering if we are considering any African American history or any courses like that.
We definitely have this list, and we can look at what is an innovative course to be able to approve that going forward. So typically what happens in the process is the requests come into Dr. Martinez in the Curriculum Instruction Department. She's over the academic course handbooks, and so we go through a process of vetting the course, whether it's innovative, and that the materials that are needed, and then look at, through HR and the chief of schools, if we're able to assign a previously certified or already certified person for that course. And then we approve the course, and then it goes forward to actually implementation for personnel and program. So yes, absolutely, to answer your question, those can definitely be considered.
Who has to make the recommendation? I'm sorry. Who has to make the recommendation? Is it teachers?
The recommendations can come from teachers or principals, counselors. They just get vetted up through the system, and then we have either special program directors, principals look at those, and the principal does have to sign off if it's a teacher in his or her building, acknowledging that this request has been made and it meets their approval as well.
Okay. Any discussion on such a course so far?
It's starting right now. So yes, we can look at that. And in terms of a course being formalized and sent to us for approval, I've not seen anything this year.
Okay.
But we can certainly take those under consideration.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Vera Cruz?
So this is a list of approved innovative courses for this year, and they always look to approve. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you for that question. So this is for the current year. And every year, TEA allows for districts to apply and other agencies to apply for innovative courses that they will approve for the following year. But these courses, if they meet our academic catalog standards and that we have people to teach them, this gives us the flexibility to offer those for students to sign up for next year. And the state also publishes an innovative course list of courses that are going to expire. And so there are only 2 courses that are going to expire for next year, and those aren't courses we're considering to offer.
Okay.
So we're looking for, and also it would give us flexibility if we want to try to offer something for summer programming for some of our T-STEM programs and P-TECH. So that would just give us some flexibility, and we would appreciate that.
I so appreciate this list. And moving forward, I think this is great. So is it correct to say that we need the right teachers to teach these types of courses? Or do they have the right certification to teach such like video game programming or the fundamentals of real estate? So do we need the right teachers in place to teach this?
Yeah, a couple of things to consider and think about with this. Because we are a district of innovation, we have flexibility to hire staff that may not necessarily have a certification in a specified area. And so, like, for example, let's just take pipe fitting technology. Well, we don't have anyone that has that unique expertise. So let's just say through the process that we've gone through to become a district of innovation, if we wanted to offer a pipe fitting technology 1 course, and we knew someone out there that had that expertise, we could hire that person, even though they don't have a teaching certificate, because we're a district of innovation, and this course, as of tonight, would be blessed by our board to be a part of our innovative courses.
It's so exciting. I'm just like, wow.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. Where am I at? I'm sorry. Okay, all in favor? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed, 0. Motion passed 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Sewell.
Yes, thank you so much.
We will now move to action item E, annual review of investment policy and strategies, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you. I'm on point a lot tonight.
Uh-huh.
That's great, that's great. Dr. Bigby is coming on. He is going to be presenting this information tonight for the board. This is an annual report that we provide, and it gives you detailed information on how we are protecting our principal interest here in the district. So, Dr. Bigby.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. As Dr. Smith said, this is an annual approval. The policy and the strategies haven't changed since I've been here. So it's a formality that the state requires. Nearly all of the investments that we have, we first look at protecting the principal and then start looking at what we can gain off of that. Nearly all of our money is in governmental pools. Therefore, we don't risk losing any principal. We're not making a whole lot of interest right now, but nobody is. It's variable between like 0.7% to 1% now, which is, it's better than just sitting there, but it's not a whole lot better than that. But anyway, we're governed by this huge policy that's very thick, and it's mostly to keep us from doing crazy things. And as far as buying commercial paper or things that are risking the principal that we are investing. So I would ask for your approval of it and certainly answer any questions that you might have. It's quite a lengthy document, and most of it was written by lawyers. So.
Oh, yeah.
No offense.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion passed 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Bigby. We will now move to action item G, resolution regarding delegation of authority relating to the winter storm, and the presenter is none other than Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you. We have developed a resolution. I'm going to ask Dr. Case to come up and review that for you. Basically what that is, board, is giving me the authority to go ahead and initiate opportunities for us to address some of the damages that took place as a result of the winter storm on last week. I do anticipate that several of those items will exceed the $50,000 amount. But at the same time, timing is of essence, and we really want to get that rolling now versus having to wait until March and each month at a board meeting. So I've asked Dr. Case to drop that resolution, and she's going to review that for you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and Madam President, members of the board. Just as Dr. Smith just mentioned, this is a resolution that is very similar to the resolution you all granted during the COVID-19. It provides authority for Dr. Smith to act quickly and immediately in order for us to basically get in the front of the line. With all of the damage that you all have seen around the state, it's going to be really hard to be able to get supplies and everything that we're going to need to be able to repair our buildings, just as you heard earlier this evening, all of the damage to our buildings. So what this resolution does, it will be active for 90 business days, and it allows the superintendent to make decisions to submit waivers to TEA, which actually you all have already moved on the consent agenda to approve those waiver days. But most importantly, it allows the procurement process for goods and services and repair of our facilities. And just as we did with COVID, every month we were reporting to the board on items that were acted upon during COVID. This will be the same situation. But we're asking for the passage of this resolution tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cates. Do I have a motion in regards to the resolution regarding delegation of authority relating to the winter storm?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the, who moved?
Janet and then Janice.
Janet moved, okay. Trustee Janet Janet Veracruz moved, and trustee Janet Savage Martin seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion?
Is there a reason it's 90 days? Is that just a typical thing?
That's
Because I know we did the COVID thing for that.
That's a pretty standard timeline. In districts around us, that's that timeline that they do as
Because I
well.
could see this going longer than 90 days.
Well, and if we need it, we'll come back just like we did with COVID
Okay.
and extend it.
Okay.
Any other questions, comment, or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Motion passed, 6-0. Thank you again, Dr. Cates. We will move to information and discussion items. The first item is the budget review, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. First, just from a logistical standpoint, board members, you should have a hard copy of this presentation. It's titled 2021-22 Budget Presentation. It's separate and apart from your binder, so just want to make sure you have that in front of you. And then the second thing that I would say before I turn it over to Dr. Bigby is just want to really communicate some of the challenges that we are anticipating in this budget cycle. Each month, we're going to be bringing budget information to you. We'll be bringing you the latest information of what's going on during the session and all the metrics that impact us. Dr. Bigby and his team prepare that on a regular basis, and we'll be providing that information monthly. The things that I wanted to really stress before Dr. Bigby gets going is, one is the challenge that all districts in the state are having, and we are too, with our ADA. A lot of times people use enrollment and ADA, and they think that that's one and the same, but those are two totally different things. We are funded based on ADA, not enrollment. And so because we're funded on ADA, which means the actual students that are in the seat, and during the pandemic, we have seen the number of students in the seat diminish tremendously. And so there's going to be a day of reckoning as it relates to the budget and the impact that that has on us. And so we are thinking about that and processing what that means for the district. I wanted Dr. Bigby to highlight that for us. The other piece that he'll be really speaking to that is so important for us is the hold harmless piece. Right now, Mike Morath, Governor Abbott, our Lieutenant Governor, and others have all been silent on whether or not they're going to grant school districts in the state relief with ADA because of the pandemic. That's huge. You're going to see as Dr. Bigby goes in his presentation, if they don't give us relief, it's going to have significant impact on our budget and our dollars, and he's going to get into those details. That's a really important piece, and they've been silent on that right now. Just last week, I participated in an online interview that Mike Morath had with the Texas Tribune. He was specifically asked that question over and over and over, and of course, I understand what his role is and why he didn't answer it, but he didn't answer it. And so there has been no commitment at this point from the state to give school districts relief. That's huge, and you'll see what the numbers are there. When you think about COVID and when you think about what recently just happened last week and all the discussions centered around power and electricity and what that's going to mean, school districts are about 40-something% of the state's budget. So anytime they start looking for dollars to support other initiatives, where do they go? So those are challenges that we have, and we have to be mindful of that as we are thinking about what we want to do as terms of staffing and raises and that sort of thing moving forward. This is a critical budget year. Every year is, but this one feels different. Mm-hmm. And so we need to really tread very carefully on some of the commitments. And so, Dr. Bigby, if you could get into the details.
Well, hello again. I'm the Grim Reaper. Seems like I'm always bringing you bad news, but hopefully it won't be as bad as it appears. Okay, next slide, please. This is just an updated budget timeline that you approved it. I just chopped off the dates that are already gone. Once again, the only board interaction that we have scheduled on this are the regular scheduled board meetings. As the legislature moves on, I'm sure we're going to need to ask you to schedule some workshops along the way, but we didn't want to schedule those until we had some more information. I've visited with quite a few of the campuses. That'll continue. We lost a few last week when we couldn't communicate. I'll finish those in a couple of weeks, talking to the campuses about their budgets, and then the departments, and then all that information will start going out to them to get back to us. But we're in the infant stage of that right now. As Dr. Smith was talking about, some of these quotes are a little bit shattering. Dan Huberty, who is the chair of the House Public Education Committee, some of his quotes is, you got schools that didn't open from March through half of September. There's been a significant savings. I guess Representative Huberty doesn't realize that we continue to pay our employees, which is over 82% of our budget. So there wasn't just a whole lot of savings that came out of that. What did went into fund balance, and you saw that with the audit. But if the taxpayers actually knew how much money the districts had in fund balances, they'd be alarmed. I would say that our constituents would be happy that we've been able to put that kind of money away when you read the papers about some of our neighbors and the problems they've run into. And then the one that kind of stood out to me is we know it's about $15 billion in fund balances. We think it's higher than that now. That's double what the state has. And he's referring to the rainy day fund, which has $11.6 billion in it. Well, that's not quite half of $15 billion. And what he may not understand, and hopefully somewhere down the line he will, is our fund balance is not the same as their savings account. You know, our fund balance is there for some of the expenses we're about to have, plus it's there for a cash flow when we don't receive any money from the state and we don't receive any tax money. We need about $35 million just to make sure we don't have to borrow money until the funds start flowing from the state. So even though it looks like we may have a giant fund balance, a lot of that's just for cash flow. The fact that we have a fiscal year that ends in June instead of August gives us 2 months there that we have to cover that a district that ends their fiscal year in August don't have to cover. So it's imperative that we keep our fund balance up high enough. We don't want to borrow money to make payroll. And you've done a great job of doing that. I'm not painting a grim picture. I'm just trying to hope that the legislators will understand that fund balance isn't just the governor's toy account to just keep. Okay, next slide, please. Dr. Smith mentioned funding based on enrollment instead of ADA. There is a bill that's been filed that would fund us off of enrollment. Some of the other states, I know I came from New Mexico, it's always been funded on membership, not on ADA. And the mindset there is if we've got 12,000 kids on our enrollment list, then we have to prepare and staff for 12,000 kids. If they don't show up, we're still having school and we still have to pay staff for those 12,000. So it makes sense. The scary part is it takes money. And they'll either have to, if they approve that, they'd either have to reduce the amount of money that comes per student or come up with a whole lot of money, and that's probably not going to happen. There was a great article, and I'm sure you've seen it, that Dr. Smith was quoted in, and he was dead on talking about that. And it makes sense. That's probably why it'll never pass, is it makes way too much sense, particularly for those of us that work in high poverty schools. It's just a given fact that our attendance is harder to get than Highland Park's. So it would help there, but don't hold your breath. And the whole harmless provision through the school year, that's extremely important. The commissioner approved it through the first 6 weeks periods. So we have that there, but he won't approve it beyond that. he has the power to do it because he did it in the first one. But there's politics involved, as you know, and that sometimes gets in the way of doing the right thing. So those are the main things that we hope to see out of this legislative session. I don't really think we'll see the first one, but hopefully we will see the second one. The hold harmless, excuse me. Okay? This is what Dr. Smith, and we've already talked about quite a bit, is go out and find them. And this district's done a great job of doing that from the grassroots up. I think we can hold that up to any legislator that wants to see it, and that Duncanville ISD has gone out and tried to get those kids and continue to. This one operation to go do that was just a culmination of it. Those principals have been doing it since the beginning of the year. They've been trying to get those kids in school. Not just for the funding part of it, but they need to be in school, and we need to keep them caught up the best we can. Okay? And here was part of what took place with Operation Connection. I won't spend a lot of time on that because we've already had some good information on that, but that was a great outreach, and I was proud that CBS picked it up and showed it to the world. Okay? Excuse me. Hadn't talked in a month or so. These are the numbers, and on January the 6th, we budgeted off an ADA of 11,280. To date, from the beginning of school, September the 8th, until January 6th, our ADA was 10,880. And the hold harmless that they've given us is 11,165. They based that off of last year's, 95% of last year's ADA. So they knew even with the hold harmless we were going to lose funds. But it's better than 10,880. The amount of money per student that comes from the state varies because as these numbers change, so do the number of students we have enrolled in special programs that have weights. So that changes the amount of money. That's why those numbers look different to you. When we initially budgeted, it was almost $5,500 per student. At our actual ADA, it drops to $5,248. And at the hold harmless, it's $5,287. The next slide I'll show you how that comes in and what it amounts to. In our budgeted number of 11,280, the state would owe us $62 million plus. At the hold harmless of 11,165, they'd owe us a little over $59 million, or a loss of almost $3 million. That's if the hold harmless continues through the end of the year. If it doesn't, then we're stuck with the 10,880, and that's $57 million coming from the state, or we'll be almost $5 million short of what we budgeted. Doesn't mean we'll spend everything that we budgeted. We never do spend it all. But as far as what money comes from the state, you can see why we feel like it's important that the hold harmless provision be at least carried to the end of this year. And who knows what we'll need next year. I mean, hopefully it's going to be better, but we thought summer was going to kill the bug off too. So didn't quite make it. Anyway, you can see those numbers. Commissioner said, go ahead. Commissioner said, as Dr. Smith said, that it's up to the legislature to extend the hold harmless. The Speaker of the House said he'd support it as long as he felt comfortable that we were out trying to find those kids. And Senator Taylor and the Education Committee made the comment, if you just say, okay, we're going to hold everybody harmless, it takes away the incentive to go find those kids. And I think that's probably selling educators a little short because our whole psyche it revolves around getting kids into school. Once again, Governor Abbott or Lieutenant Governor Patrick hasn't said anything. I would like to hear from Abbott, but I usually don't like what we hear from Dan Patrick, so maybe he won't say anything. Okay. The two appropriations bills, and there's really not much going on at the legislature. They did bring forward their appropriations bills. Both of them were $120 billion for the next biennium. They budget 2 years at a time. The comptroller gave them an estimate of $113 billion for the total revenue for the next 2 years. It didn't take a whole lot of math to figure out that's $7 million short from what's in the appropriations bills. So there may be some hocus pocus going on somewhere down the road if they actually pass those at $120 billion. Okay? Both bills say they'll fully fund House Bill 3, which is what we're operating on or have for the last 2 years. A $3.1 billion increase for the foundation school program. Part of that covers the growth in enrollment, which right now the state doesn't have a growth in enrollment. Typically we do. We add about 80,000 kids a year. Right now, as a state, we're about 3% low from what we were last year. There's $1 billion in there for property tax compression. If you remember, for the last 2 years, we've had to see what our values are going to do and then determine our tax rate to keep from raising the tax bill of our patrons by more than 2.5%. So to do that, rather than hold down the value of the property, they hold down the tax rate, which as a taxpayer, it doesn't matter as long as you don't have to pay the money. But as long as that's enforced, then you're in good shape. If that's ever removed from legislation, then you're going to be paying taxes off of that total new value, which is pretty high. There's $70 million to transition to Online Star, and there's no expenditures from either appropriation bill or the $11.6 billion rainy day fund. If it ain't raining now, I don't know when it's going to rain.
True.
So, but they didn't ask me. Okay, next slide, please. Stimulus packages. The one that's in the legislation now that hasn't been passed would give the state of Texas $5.5 billion. That's not just for education, but it's for businesses, everything that's involved in where the stimulus goes. Last time, the state had $1.3 billion. If you remember the last time, we wound up with $2.3 million of that $1.3 billion, and they took away $2.3 million of state funding. So we didn't gain anything, but we didn't lose anything. True. That's the way when the Obama stimulus went through, that's exactly how it was done then. The state basically reaped the benefits of having the federal money and didn't put the state money in. And I'd really be shocked if it didn't happen the same way this next time. That's maybe why they budgeted $7 billion short, is they'll pick up a lot of that with this federal money. So while we think, and the public thinks, that we're going to get a windfall because of all this federal money coming in, it's probably going to be a wash at best. That they'll take the same amount of state funding as they provide in federal funding. All it does is create an accounting nightmare and trying to explain to people why the general fund looks different than what it should. But at least you guys don't have to worry about that piece of it. But don't count on getting an increase from the federal money. Talk about fund balance. This is the last slide, just so you know where it looks like we are right now. At the audit, there was $67.6 million in fund balance. Good, healthy fund balance. About $7 million of that is TRA money. That's a lot of it's been designated already. The $2,000 supplemental payment to our employees was about $3.7 million. You authorized $2.8 million in technology purchases. PPE orders, we've ordered a tremendous amount of stuff to try to keep our staff and students safe. About $855,000, and then I'm putting down there the loss of ADA with the hold harmless. You know, that could be higher if they don't approve the hold harmless. I don't think any of them can stay in office if they don't approve it. But, you know, politics are crazy. So that'd be a little over $10 million coming out of fund balance this year. Still leaves us an extremely good fund balance. There's no danger of it being a problem with that amount, but you need to be aware of the fact that it's coming down. Now, hopefully we don't spend all of our budget this year, and we'll be able to put some back to soften that. And the $2.8 million, we've applied for a little over $2.4 million in a grant a connectivity grant that we should get. So it'll take 2.4 of that million off of that. It'll come in a different line item, but it's when you add it all up, there's probably going to be less than 8 million that's really going to come out of fund balance, and then hopefully we cover that with savings that we have in this year's budget. A lot of money we're not spending, field trips, those kind of things that we didn't spend at the end of last year. That'll help, but once again, we're paying our employees and should, and that takes up the biggest chunk of our budget. And that's really without the legislature doing anything other than the appropriations bill, that's about all we can tell you right now. We're expecting the worst and hoping for the best. And, you know, my dad told me if you'll always figure out the worst thing that could happen to you, accept that, then it's going to be better than that. So us in finance usually do it that way. So that's what we're doing now. Next August we're going to have school. No matter what they do to us, those mamas are going to bring them to school. So whatever happens, we'll have school. We'll fuss about it for a while if it's not to our liking, but we'll have school one way or another. Happy to entertain any questions you might have, any thoughts, anything you would like for us to bring to you in these presentations that you don't have in this.
Thank you, Dr. Bigby. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion?
No, you made it very clear.
Trustee Colton? Is your mic on?
I keep forgetting, I'm sorry. Excellent presentation. You do, an exemplary job at, managing our finances. I'm just wondering, do you think it would be of benefit if the board sent a resolution or some type of communication to the House and Senate Education Committees or the governor?
Well, you actually did that. Last month you approved the legislative agenda, and those items were on there.
Well, yeah, I know that was on our legislative agenda.
Right. Can't hurt anything. And we can prepare something if you'd like for next meeting. I don't know that they're going to take a whole lot of action before then, but actually the strongest thing that can happen is parents to contact them. They think we're just whiny school people. Really, I've heard that quote. But when you get parents involved and they start calling those people, they listen. I mean, those are the people that vote for them. And I know Central West has been a champion for public school for many, many years, and we know he's going to try his best to make sure we're taken care of. But it never hurts to pat them on the back and to let them know, gosh, this is how I individually feel even. But parents I've heard legislatures over and over say, when the parents call, we listen. And we've got a dog in the hunt, and they do to an extent, but not as much as what we do.
Yeah, and I don't know, Dr. Smith, I'm pretty sure they've reached out to us to ask our parents maybe to call or send emails. But generally, I think that happens like when there's a upcoming hearing or something like that. So maybe we're early in the process. But
yes, we are. I know probably 3 weeks ago, if my timing is correct, Senator West called a meeting, and he definitely asked for feedback from all of us related to these issues that we are discussing. And most of us at that time leading up to that meeting had sent our information to him and our resolution. So he had the data readily available from Duncanville and all the other representative districts so that he can go and argue and champion. And I know he's been very active social media. If you follow his Twitter, you'll see him pushing a lot of information in there, supporting the hold harmless, supporting funding for school districts. So I know he's been very, very vocal some of the others that are not in our area. What's the gentleman that represents DeSoto?
Representative Sherman?
Sherman, yes, yes. He's done the same. He's even done some community meetings where he's been able to get non-school people, more parents, to have an opportunity to have a voice. So several of those kind of things are going on. Because of our relationship with Senator West, we're always going to be on the front lines to participate in those, and we'll continue to make our points loudly.
Well, yeah, I know it helps, like when there are hearings, for people to show up before, you know, the committees.
Yes. Yes, it is very helpful. It is
Of course,
very
now
helpful.
they're not going to allow too many in this year.
Well, that's true,
Unless
too.
they change
I
their
don't know how
protocol.
they're gonna do that, if it'll be virtual, but.
Right. And Senator West does have the numbers that you saw tonight. That was part of what Dr. Smith sent him, was what we stand to lose with the hold harmless.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? No? All right, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Bigby.
you.
We appreciate you. We will move to the information discussion agenda item B, COVID-19 pandemic plan and efforts update. The presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you. Each month, we bring to you an update on COVID. We talk about a number of factors associated with our numbers, the number of positive COVID cases, how that data is trending, what our strategy is in order to mitigate those factors, and then just updating you on any new information. We have a lot of new information for you this tonight in this update, and so we have Dr. Halachka representing the student services side, and then we have Ms. Kathleen Brown representing the employee side.
Thank you so much. Good evening again, Madam President, trustees, and Dr. Smith. It's my pleasure to share with you this evening our ongoing plans related to the COVID-19 pandemic and how we are addressing its impact on our staff and students. It's our goal to always keep you informed of our current state as it relates to how the pandemic has affected our enrollment and attendance. We will also share how the data is trending when it comes to the instructional methods our students are selecting for learning. Each month, we provide you an overview of our staff and student COVID cases, but tonight we're going to take a deeper dive into the numbers and also provide a progress update on our COVID testing and efforts to provide the vaccines to our staff. I will begin by giving you an update on our current enrollment and attendance numbers. Our student enrollment continues to remain steady at 96% of our projection with 11,831 students currently enrolled. This is slightly up from last month with approximately 22 additional students enrolling for the third 9 weeks. We are continuing to focus on addressing student attendance through intervention efforts and are pleased that attendance has remained at or above 94% this year amid the pandemic. This does not reach our normal year goal, but it is evident that our campuses are working hard to get students to re-engage in learning and to keep them engaged with all of the challenges this year has provided. The method in which students have chosen to learn has seen a slight shift throughout the year, with more students selecting to learn in person, especially starting with the third 9 weeks. However, this varies tremendously by level, with elementary schools at 62% in person and the high school at 43% in person. Intermediate and middle schools are averaging 47 to 48% in person. The window for the fourth 9 weeks will open on March 8th. We would like to see, of course, more students return in person, but we also want families to continue to make choices based on their own needs and situations. We do, however, know that our schools are continuing to follow safety protocols consistently, and they are safe for our students to return in person. With that said, let's take a deeper look at our student COVID numbers. I know this is a lot of data for the student COVID cases, but we wanted you to see all of the information that we're currently tracking to ensure our schools remain safe for students and staff. The 4 tables at the top of the slide are our current active cases. For all these charts, the numbers are, of course, ever changing every single day. Students are tracked if they've been lab confirmed, in close contact, exposed, or have shown 1 or more symptoms. As you can see on the chart at the top left, currently only 3 students with lab-confirmed COVID were on campus in the past 14 days. Please note that when I say on campus, this does not mean that they were an in-person student. It could be a virtual student that was on campus for an extracurricular activity. Also, the not on campus students can also be in-person students that have not been on campus for the past 14 days due to holidays, exposure, snowstorms, those things. I know that can all be a little bit confusing in the language, but it's a more accurate measure of determining when we need to contact trace, quarantine, send notifications, etc. We do send through email a campus-wide notification anytime we have a positive on-campus student case, and also notify anyone that was exposed or in close contact. We also keep the dashboard on the website updated with the current on-campus cases. As you can see, this is a very complex, ongoing effort to ensure identified students are quarantined, monitored, and tracked. We believe this detailed process is why our overall number of lab-confirmed COVID cases for this year is very low, equaling only 2.5% of our overall student body. We have seen spikes throughout the year after holidays and extended breaks, but we've worked quickly to mitigate these spikes. I will now turn it back over to Ms. Kathleen Brown to discuss our staff COVID numbers.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Good evening. We will now take a look at our staff COVID numbers. The data on the right side shows information that we've been sharing each month, so we will start there. We've had a total of 304 positive COVID cases in staff members since the start of the pandemic. This makes up approximately 16% of all staff members. We currently have 11 staff members who are positive for COVID-19. Lab-confirmed positive cases are tracked daily internally and updated on the dashboard. As positive employees recover and are no longer quarantined, they are removed from the dashboard on the date of their expected return to work. The dashboard intentionally only includes current COVID-19 data, as it is the most relevant and real-time picture of the current impact of COVID-19 on the district. When a staff member tests positive for COVID, the entire location is notified of the positive case. Staff members who have been in contact receive a phone call from an HR team member, as well as a separate letter by email that outlines their quarantine procedures. Staff members who were possibly exposed also receive a letter by email as well. If a staff member has tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 90 days, they are not asked to quarantine again if they have been exposed based on CDC guidelines. Our staff members still have access to up to 10 board-approved district-paid sick leave days if they must quarantine or if they test positive for COVID and are unable to work from home. These days are not able to be used for side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. Once an employee has exhausted their 10 district-paid sick leave days, or if they are too ill for any other reason, they have access to use any of their available leave at that time, including applying for family medical leave if needed. At times, classrooms have been closed due to the number of positive cases or the susceptibility of students in the room due to multiple factors. These closures have mostly been in our self-contained special education classrooms where students may have difficulty keeping their mask on at times. By responding quickly, we have been able to slow the spread of COVID in these settings. At this time, as you can see on the chart, we have no closures in the district. On the left side of the screen, you see a graph that shows COVID cases in staff members by month. Like the student data, we have seen our greatest spikes after holidays in December and January when staff have spent time away from work with family and friends. Another important piece of data that we consistently track is where staff members are exposed. This includes staff members who have tested positive and those who have been exposed and are quarantined as a preventative measure. As you can see, only a little over 17% of staff members have been exposed at work, while over 82% of staff members have been exposed outside of work. This data proves that the safety measures in place in the district are working and that staff are safer at work in most cases than they are outside of work. It is important that staff members hold themselves to the same standards outside of the workplace as they hold the district to while at work. This means that when we are outside of the walls of Duncanville ISD, that we continue to implement the safety protocols in our everyday lives. This will decrease the number of staff members who may bring COVID-19 to the workplace based on their actions and interactions outside of work. As a district, we are very pleased with the data and are laser focused on what we can control, and that is providing the safest environment we possibly can for our staff and students. I will now turn it back over to Dr. Halachka to discuss employee testing and vaccination.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Starting the last week of January, we were able to initiate our COVID testing program for employees and have tested 218 staff members since the testing clinic was open. Of the 218 tested employees, we have had 9 employees test positive. We have seen a reduction in the number of appointments, but are continuing to offer this service every day before and after the school day. In addition to the COVID testing service, we are also working to partner with the Caring Foundation of Texas to provide vaccines to our staff members. In preparation for this partnership, we surveyed our employees based on interest, and of the 88% of employees surveyed, 65% want the vaccine and 20% meet the 1B eligibility. We will keep the board informed when these vaccines are available for our employees or in the event the state prioritizes educators for the vaccine, which is what we would hope.
Yeah.
This concludes our COVID-19 pandemic plan update, and I hope provides you with some additional data and information regarding the efforts we're making to ensure our schools are safe for staff and students. Thank you again for your ongoing support, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Mrs. Brown, thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Trustee Colton?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Has the CDC issued new protocols?
They have updated protocols routinely, and we stay informed of what those changes and those protocols are. There have been some instances where they have kind of reduced the number of days required in quarantining and some of those kind of things. We've maintained the higher standard for some of those, and the reason we do that is because of the fact you can see we believe it creates a safer environment and ensures that we are doing everything we can to protect our staff and students.
When did they update the protocol? Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago?
It's actually been almost a month ago.
A month ago?
I think it's been about a month ago since they did that.
And then what were the changes that they recommended?
Well, there were several, but one was the number of days in regards to quarantining. So they had originally, it was at 14, and they've reduced it down give or take to 10, but it depends on different circumstances. But that was probably the most significant change that impacted us as a district.
Okay, so
And then we also monitor the UIL, because UIL has a different set of protocols, and so we also monitor that to make sure between the CDC and the UIL and that we are being consistent in our protocols for all those.
Thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Vera Cruz?
Yes, I had a question. Do the teachers or the staff have to report if they have received the COVID test to y'all? Are y'all asking them to share if they received it so you can document it, or
the test or the vaccine?
The vaccine. I'm sorry, the vaccine.
What we did in the survey is we did ask if they had received it. Of course, it was voluntary in regards to whether or not they responded to that, but we have not required that they inform us of whether or not
I was
they
just
received
wondering
it.
how you gathered who did it.
Yeah.
Who received the vaccine and who hasn't.
Yeah,
because-
we asked the question in the survey, and
Okay.
they were able to respond. So what we will do is, based on their responses on those surveys, we can now prioritize those employees who have indicated they would want the vaccine, and we can rank those based on whether or not they're in the 1B category, and then when those vaccines are available, based on where they're at in the ranking and what they qualify for and how many vaccines we get, we'll just kind of go down the list.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Thank you again, Dr. Halachka and Mrs. Brown. We will move to the information discussion agenda item C, strategic planning process, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Tonight, Dr. Lasha is going to remain up. You may recall back in December, we really took care of two things. We took care of the House Bill 3 goals that were required by the state to be approved by January. And then we took the first step in the strategic planning process. Now the heavy lifting starts. And so Dr. Halachka is going to speak to the heavy lifting that is going to create opportunities for our school board members to be involved in that process and really defining. We, of course, maintain the 5 core values that have been so key and valued by our board. And so from that, we're going to advance now to the next phase. And so Dr. Halachka is going to walk us through what that next phase is going to look like.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith, and thank you, Madam President and trustees. I am going to be referencing this document that you received at your place this evening, so if you want to take a look at that, so when I call out some page numbers, you'll know what I'm referencing. So I'm pleased to share with you this evening the district's initial strategic planning efforts and the steps we'll be taking next in order to complete the development of our comprehensive strategic plan. In December, a 24-member stakeholder committee, which is listed on page 5 of your packet, was created to review and revise the previous strategic plan's core components, priorities, and goals. These revised components and goals were shared with the board in January and were approved with minor revisions. This slide is a lot of words, but it summarizes what was approved, and the information is also in your packet this evening. Although this work is a good starting point, we still have several steps to go before completing our overall comprehensive strategic plan. When creating a strategic plan, districts have several questions in which they must answer, and there we go, in order to have a complete and meaningful plan that will take the district from vision to action. Based on the initial work, we know who we are as a district, we have our vision to identify where we want to be, and we know what we need to focus on. But we still have 4 other important questions in which we need to answer. Number 1, how will we measure our success? Number 2, what steps must we take? Number 3, how will we embed the plan in our culture? And number 4, how will we hold ourselves accountable? We also are still working to complete our graduate profile. Therefore, as you can see, there's still plenty of work to be done by our stakeholder committees and trustees in order to complete our comprehensive strategic plan. So with 5 important aspects of the plan still needing to be completed, you will see on page 4 of your packet the timeline for getting these components finalized. I'll walk you through the timeline here. By the end of March, we intend to have our graduate profile completed utilizing the stakeholder committee listed on page 6. And we will have our action plans ready for sharing with the board at the end of March as well. I'll talk a little bit more about the action planning process in the next few slides, as well as the board's role. We will then work to align the long-range strategic plan with our annual district and campus improvement plans, because the strategic plan will be the master plan for all other plans in the district. By April and May, we will also finalize our deployment and monitoring plans to ensure the strategic plan is well known to all and monitored routinely. You can see the drafted deployment and monitoring plans on pages 11 and 12 of the document provided. We would ask that the board review these drafted plans and provide feedback to Dr. Smith over the next month. Once all these pieces are completed that are on the timeline, we will align the strategic plan with our budget priorities in June and July and move towards deployment and monitoring by the beginning of the year. So let's discuss the strategic action planning process. Often strategic plans fall short and stop at the goal phase. However, in order for strategic plans to actually make a difference, action plans must be created that specifically identify the steps that need to be taken in order for the goals to be achieved. Therefore, I consider the action planning phase to be the most critical, which is why we will be involving approximately 50 additional stakeholders, including board members, to engage in the action planning process. There will be on an action planning team for each of the 5 board's priority areas facilitated by one of our senior leaders. We will work to utilize stakeholders that were not on the original planning team nor on the graduate profile team to involve as many voices as reasonable. However, there may be some areas where we have an overlap based on expertise and availability. There's only one Dr. Bigby, so he's kind of important. Our action planning timeline was pushed back some due to the inclement weather last week, but our senior leaders will go through facilitator training tomorrow, and Dr. Smith will invite the action team participants to take part in the planning process on or before Friday. The facilitators will be scheduling their meetings throughout March, so anticipate hearing from your action team leader soon, because your involvement in the action planning process, of course, is very important. All action plans will be shared with the board in April. So as you can see, we still have several steps to complete our comprehensive strategic plan, and we're looking forward to our next phase of action planning. We, of course, appreciate the support and engagement of the board in this process, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Halachka. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? No? Okay, thank you so much. We will move to the information discussion agenda, item D, Elementary Leadership Academy School Choice Initiative, and the presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right, thank you again, Madam President and board members. Tonight, we're going to continue our focus as we have over the last several years with choice programs and choice options. As you know, we took a very incremental, phased-in process over several years to get to this point. We are now prepared to take advantage of an opportunity to start the elementary process, and that is the focus for tonight. We've got Dr. Halachka, we've got Dr. Goodman, and they're going to be walking you through our Acton Leadership Academy. This is information, so we want to share this information with you tonight with the goal of getting feedback from you all, and then coming back with the next month with an action item.
Well, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith, although many of our discussions this year have centered around the pandemic, the Duncanville team has really continued to look beyond COVID-19 to find ways in which to expand our opportunities and choices for students. Therefore, I'm excited to share with you this evening a new choice initiative we're looking to implement for the 2021-2022 school year at Acton Elementary. As you can see from this slide, providing choice opportunities for the students of Duncanville has been an ongoing effort since the initiation of the Collegiate High School in 2017-2018. This campus started with 9th grade and now has students all the way through 12th grade. The STEAM Academy at the middle school level and the P-Tech program were added the following year, and both have expanded and grown annually to provide opportunities to other grade levels and programs. Last year, we expanded our choice opportunities even more to include the other 2 middle schools as well. And then this year, amid the pandemic, we added our 3rd high school choice program, which was T-STEM, which now carries our STEAM program from 6th grade all the way through 12th grade. Duncanville ISD believes in providing students choice based on their interest and goals in order to make learning relevant and engaging for our scholars. So with this in mind, we're now ready to start looking at creating a foundation of choice by utilizing our School Action Fund grant money to offer a leadership academy at Acton Elementary. The School Action Fund grant was awarded to the district in 2019-2020 to support planning for innovative, bold actions at 3 eligible campuses, Acton, Alexander, and Hastings. Midway through the grant cycle, the pandemic started. Therefore, we decided a focused and strategic rollout of choice would be more ideal, and Acton provided many of the qualities for starting choice at the elementary level, including its namesake, Charles Acton. Mr. Acton was an exemplary leader throughout his life, and specifically in our community. As a 3-time Man of the Year in Duncanville and a civic and business leader, we believe he serves as an excellent role model of leadership and service. In addition to the namesake, Acton also provides the physical capacity to support a choice program and accept students from around the district that would like to participate in a program of this nature. Acton was built to occupy approximately 770 students, but currently only has an enrollment of about 470 students. This additional space supports the placement of the academy at Acton. Although Acton provides qualities that will support a full-scale choice program, we will also provide some similar opportunities at Alexander and Hastings to get them started towards choice programs in future years. Last year, prior to COVID, a vision was created in partnership with Commit Dallas, which paints a really strong picture of what we want the Acton Leadership Academy to be for students. Through rigorous, enriching academic learning experiences, the Duncanville ISD Leadership Academy will develop ethical, civic-minded student leaders empowered to serve and influence their local and global community. I will now turn it over to Dr. Winifred Goodman to discuss program components and next steps.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. As we began to explore choice programs at the elementary level, a district steering committee was designed consisting of leaders from various departments throughout the district. The committee's goal was to design a choice program while also utilizing the school action grant funds that the district had already received. We explored several scenarios and developed basic program elements, which I will discuss with you later. These elements will be for the 21-22 school year. The decision was made to use Acton as our first elementary choice program. The elements of the program include incorporating leadership tenets at all grade levels, pre-K through 4th grade, utilizing current staff and providing them with professional development, and the utilization of the Leader in Me framework. Additionally, the campus staff will be involved by designing the process so that they have an opportunity to determine what the Acton Leadership Academy will look like on a day-to-day basis, and they will have buy-in. Lastly, we will utilize the school action grant to provide any startup costs. One of the reasons that we chose this Leadership Academy was that the grant could provide those startup costs, but also the program would be sustainable for years to come without being a huge impact to our budget. Next slide. Thank you. The Leader in Me framework, as you see here, is specific to what we've designed specifically to the campus. As I mentioned previously, the district steering committee decided on a plan to use the Leader in Me in their framework. The steering committee outlined 3 tenets of that framework that would be used specifically at Acton. Teach leadership principles, which includes teaching staff, student learning, and family learning. Create a leadership culture, that leadership environment, shared leadership, and leadership events to include service activities and projects. Last, aligning academic systems to include teaching leadership principles, which embody student-led academics and empowering instruction as well as school goals. The tenets were intentionally left vague, as you see here, as we know how important it is for the school community to really be involved in the development of the academy. Excuse me. So that they have buy-in and understand how the school design and the implementation of the plan, because it actually it's theirs. It's that school community's. The school community, we have the opportunity to define each of these tenets. So as you see, we have teach, create, and align, but they will really get to develop that and make it their own. They will also be able to determine how the success will be measured, success of that particular program. This Leader in Me framework will be adjusted as needed to meet the needs of the Acton Leadership Academy scholars. The campus planning team, which will include staff, parents, and other stakeholders, will determine and finalize this framework. Next slide, please. Excuse me. The student experience was also explored. The district steering committee looked specifically at the physical environment, the common language, and also the emotional environment. We discussed some general ideas about things that we wanted to see incorporated in this particular program and how we could use the current funds of the school action grant to begin the implementation of these. The main goal is to ensure that we meet the needs of our students socially, academically, and emotionally, addressing their needs at all levels. The examples you see on the slide are general in nature. Again, this is not an exhaustive list because we want to ensure that the Acton community has the opportunity to determine the true tenets of the program. Next slide. The district level steering committee designed a preliminary profile of an Acton leader. Each grade level will have specific milestones, opportunities, and products that they will be using in each category. I lead, I learn, I serve. These will be completed annually, and profiles will be further developed and solidified collaboratively between the district level steering committee and the campus planning team. Next slide. As we explore next steps, the campus committee will be fully developed. I have already talked to the principal, and she is aware that we are proposing this. But they will begin to meet regularly in planning, just as the district level committee has already done. We will determine which purchases need to be made and get them done within the grant period, which ends July 2021. As stated in the previous slide, the campus committee will finalize the Leader in Me framework specific to Acton. Staff members will be provided Leader in Me professional development. As you heard Dr. Halachka say, Hastings and Alexander were also a part of this initial grant. As a result, we plan to include them on professional development activities so that this will allow them to take some of the tenets from Leader in Me as we provide their professional development and be able to use those things on their particular campus, giving us an idea of how we can springboard into our next choice program at the elementary level. We will devise a communication and marketing plan so that we can ensure that our story is being told and that our community knows of our new program and new offerings. And finally, the portrait of the Acton leader by grade level will be designed by that school community. At this time, I will take any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goodman. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Fahey?
So will the Acton community be basically those students enrolled, like presently their normal place of education, or will we be accepting students from other campuses? And does this have anything to do with GATE students, or there will be no testing to get in, or, okay, so I guess my first question is, it basically the community?
I think I tried to write them down. I think I got them. It's okay. So to answer your first question, whether or not this will be just Acton students. So they are our initial base. However, we also are giving priority to students at Hastings and Alexander because of their relationship to the grant as well. But initially, and I'm speaking very preliminarily, we have discussed the possibility of using a process to also include other students throughout our district. That's your first question. As far as GATE students and testing, that is not the design of this Leadership Academy. As many of you, as you already know, that's not always the student that is the leader that we are seeking to develop. Every student, we believe every student needs those leadership skills, and so we want to be able to provide that opportunity to many.
I just thought it would be a nice drawing card, and from even people outside of our district.
And students, we still do have our transfer process, and so students could request a transfer to that campus, and based on capacity and available space, we would be able to accept some transfers from other campuses within the district through our transfer process.
Trustee Vera Cruz?
I was just going to make a comment. I'm just so excited about this. And I hope that the principal's excited about this. But this is great. This is just another nugget into helping our students become brilliant, Dr. Avery, and their role of, becoming who they can in the future. And that's our future. And so I'm very proud of this.
Thank you. Thank you. We're excited about it as well. And yes, the principal is excited about it as well.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton?
Thank you, Dr. Goodman. I'm very excited as well. I mean, I really appreciate the staff for coming up with ideas to help the students, succeed and excel and be all they can be. initially I thought about, have we thought about maybe making it a all-boys school? Program?
We have not at this time.
Would that be possible? I mean, would that fit within the realm of the grant?
Yes, it does meet the criteria. The grant is really about planning for bold action, and so as long as we're planning for bold action and we're including those 3 campuses, we meet the criteria of the grant. And so that would be considered a bold action if that is something that we wanted to do, of course, as a district.
And with the direction, of course, as I stated, with the campus.
Okay, yeah, I know, well, all of our students have, real need, but I know our boys,
One of the things that this will allow us to do that we've been excited about as a steering committee is it will allow us to be able to springboard other things and get to figure out how some things will work, starting small and then being able to expand.
It's very exciting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, thank you, Dr. Goodman, Dr. Halachka.
Thank you.
We will move to the information discussion agenda, item E, instructional materials, report and review. The presenter is Dr. Mark Smith.
All right. Dr. Sewell, you're on point.
Yes, sir. Good evening again, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. Before you, I have our instructional materials update under Proclamation 2021, which are our pre-K, pre-kindergarten systems. Next slide. So to highlight the process briefly, the first area that we started to review were establishing our non-negotiables for the pre-K instruction materials. And those are highlighted here. We wanted to make sure that the materials we reviewed were aligned to the Texas Education Pre-K state guidelines. The materials were both offered in English and in Spanish, and that we had digital access as well as print access. Our next slide. So of the materials, the greater group of materials that were reviewed, the top 3 selections are featured here on this slide, which is Savas, Scholastic, and Benchmark. And below there's just some bullet points of key activities. It gives you an idea of the review and selection workflow that's been occurring since the fall. So we conducted a staff needs assessment, which occurred in the fall, and then we had our subcommittee training and development. Our subcommittee consisted of parents, educators. There were 35 participants in total. 3 of the participants were parents. We had parents on our subcommittee and in attendance at our subcommittee training. We also allowed online access to the materials that are featured here on this slide for our subcommittee members and our parents. We also had a parent university in January. We had 14 parents attend. They provided feedback and asked questions, so it was very informative. We also allowed for the subcommittee review to take place between January and February, where all 35 members of the subcommittee were able to look at the materials and kind of get a feel for how they wanted to score them and look at what they preferred. And then finally, after they had some time to process, we had a Q&A session with the publishers to answer any final questions through the scoring process. Next slide. And as you can see here, here are some of the colorful, delightful examples of our pre-K systems and the kits that we did review. We had access that was available, as I mentioned before, to the community, parents, teachers. That was on our website, so we had virtual access there. We also had materials on display at PACE, and we had sample kits, pre-K kits that were available at our elementary schools. The core adoption team really dove into the kits that were at PACE, in terms of delving into those materials more thoroughly. But again, we did have access at those locations and online. So on our next slide, you can see here the subcommittee rubric. This is the product average score for the 3 that were selected. The average ranking scores are noted here. We use 17 categories for ranking on the rubric, and the scale was designed for 10 being the highest rank for the category or 1 being the lowest. And so you can see with the 17 topics, we had, high quality instruction, assessment resources and monitoring tools, support for special populations. So those are just to highlight a few of the 17 topics that they did cover on the rubrics. And as you can see, Savas scored the highest average points. Alrighty, and so the best fit selection, I wanted to highlight here some of the reasons why the rubric did, the committee did score with the rubric, with Savas being the top selection. One of the things that they pointed out was that Savas includes award-winning books in their kits for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asian characters that represent our student population and our student body in our schools and our pre-K programs. The materials not only honor diversity, but the committee noted they are inclusive to show women pioneers in space. They show varieties of ethnic holidays and food celebrations, as well as noting legends from different cultures that are informative. They also have assessment tools, which include literacy and math progress measures and reports, and they also include teacher observation checklists, so teachers can have a developmental progress on a checklist in addition to the literacy and math assessments. The ease of use for Savas was also a key point. What some of the committee members noted was that the binders for Savas, the materials, the books, the references, were all in one binder. They weren't having to select books from different kits and move around and be confused. And so they really liked the organizational structure, and that did earn some key points. The committee also mentioned that they liked the parent and child engagement activities to help parents and children learn in the home as well as in the classroom. Okay, so our final slide just shows some next steps. So what we're hoping to do is to order the materials and plan to do so by April the 15th. Our calendar is a little bit earlier this year, so we want to be sure and get everything in order and accomplished by April. So that will require us to put our budget items together, bring the instructional materials allotment funds to you all, and the cost of the products for you to review and approve at the next board meeting. And then we'll also give you an overview of consumables that we order annually, to replenish for our different subject areas. So we'll bring that to you all in March for your approval. Then we will plan and implement our summer professional development, and we will work with our warehouse and purchasing team to receive, catalog, deliver, get those materials out to all the pre-K classrooms in the district in a timely fashion for school to start. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Dr. Sewell. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay, looks like we are good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, just want to thank the board. We had a lot of information tonight. You may have mentioned, you may recall a couple of board meetings ago, I mentioned that this would be the heavy phase of the school year and more information that we need to present at board meetings. Next board meeting will be the same. Next board meeting in April will be similar. So I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your attention to detail. I thank you for your questions. I heard them all. Team is responsive, and we'll make sure that we follow up in every way. So thank you all very much.
And thank you, Dr. Smith. While we're in the information phase, I am going to mention a few things just for those that might be viewing the recording. First, I want to thank our maintenance team for working so diligently throughout the storms to assess the damage and try to help us get back on track there. And then we have our upcoming coat drive distribution on Saturday, the 27th of February from 11 to 3 at Absolute Logo Factory in Duncanville. So if you have or know a child in need of a coat, please come by and just pick up a coat. No questions asked. We'll give you the size you need. and we'll make sure that our students have coats. And the last thing that I would like to mention is the board's gift card for gift bags for the families that were affected by the Green Townhomes fire. So thank you, board, for being so responsive and just jumping in and just doing everything that we needed to do to show our love and support for our community and our families in our community. We have raised just under $2,000 in gift cards. $250, $300 worth of food was donated, and we still have donations coming in. So thank you for everything that you all have done. Thank you, community, for everything you've done, for stepping up and showing our families how much you love and appreciate them and support them. So with that, does anybody have anything else? Okay, we're good. Okay, so we will now move to communication from citizens, and we do not have any communications from citizens, so being that there are no further items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.